Hey, are you even listening to me? I asked my husband. We were discussing our daughter Anna's future plans for her senior year of high school, but my husband, Dave, was glued to his phone. I'm talking about something important, I repeated. Shut up, he snapped. If she wants to go to college, she can pay for it herself. I'm not wasting money on a useless daughter who can't even take care of her own grandmother. What? His words hit me like a slap in the face. What did he even mean by that? I glanced at Dave's phone and saw something shocking on the screen. Dave and I had been married for 18 years. We had one daughter, Anna, who was in her second year of high school. For the most part, life at home felt calm and normal. Anna was growing into a smart and responsible young woman. Did you eat well? I asked her one evening. Yeah, she replied. Great, don't forget to clean up your plates. Okay. I brought up her exams and plans for the future, and she reassured me. I know, Mom, I'm thinking about it. Hearing that, I felt a little relieved. I wanted the best for her and knew she'd figure things out. But there was something else that lingered in my mind, my mother-in-law, Judy. I hadn't spoken to her in years, and honestly, it was for good reason. My own mother had passed away not long after Dave and I got married. At the funeral, Judy said something that left me stunned. Stop crying, you're my son's wife now, she told me, without an ounce of sympathy. And then she added, your mom probably died early because of the way she behaved in life, right? I was speechless. She even mocked my grieving mother. Dave, however, stepped in. What's wrong with you? If you're going to talk like that, leave. He was furious, and since then, I completely cut ties with Judy and the rest of his family. I hadn't seen or spoken to them since. Over the years, my anger slowly faded, but I still wondered if it was right to stay disconnected. After all, Judy was Anna's grandmother. One day, we got news that Dave's father had passed away. Despite everything, I attended the funeral with Dave. Judy looked smaller and weaker than I remembered, and she was crying a lot. For a moment, I felt sorry for her. She had lost her husband, and I could see she was grieving deeply. After the funeral, Dave stayed at his parents' house for a few days to sort out inheritance matters. When he came back home, he had a request. My mom is all alone now. She's really depressed, he said. I nodded, picturing Judy sitting in that big house by herself. I think we should move in with her, Dave continued. Please. I hesitated but eventually agreed. So, we moved into my mother-in-law Judy's house. I'm looking forward to living with you, Judy, I said, trying to be polite. She gave me a sharp look. You've never been a great wife, so you'd better work harder now to make up for it. What? I was stunned. Now go make me some tea. Can't you see how depressed I am? You should be more considerate. I couldn't believe it. I agreed to move in because I thought she was lonely, but her attitude was unbearable. To make things worse, even though Dave and I both worked, he left all the house chores to me. Is dinner ready yet? He asked one evening. I just got back from work, I replied, exhausted. You're such a bad wife, he said coldly. How can you ignore your responsibilities at home? I'm really disappointed in you. Judy constantly criticized me, but now she started targeting Anna too. Hey, go fold the laundry, she told Anna. But I'm studying right now, Anna replied. What a useless girl you are, just like your mother, Judy snapped. What? Anna was shocked. Girls should help with housework instead of wasting time studying. Huh? You're so annoying, Anna shot back. Anna, being a teenager, became more rebellious toward Judy. Studying is pointless, housework is what actually matters, Judy barked. You're freaking annoying, Anna yelled. My goodness, she's such a hopeless child, isn't she? Judy muttered. The tension between Judy and Anna kept getting worse, and I started to regret moving in. Why had I ever agreed to this? Meanwhile, Dave was being completely influenced by Judy. I'm home, Dave said one evening. Welcome home, honey, Judy greeted him sweetly. Let me take your bag and jacket. You should sit and relax. Oh, thanks, Mom, Dave said, smiling. You know, it's the wife's job to take care of her husband like this, Judy added with a fake, innocent tone. I'd love to teach Clara how to be a proper wife, but she's so lazy and doesn't take anything I say seriously. Really? Dave asked, sounding concerned. Judy even cried fake tears to make herself seem like the victim. Clara and Anna are always harassing me. Please do something about it, sweetie, she sobbed. You're disgusting, harassing my own mother, Dave yelled at me, completely ignoring what Anna and I had to say. I've never harassed her. She's the one who's always crumpling up my laundry and making my life miserable. I tried to defend myself. Judy immediately fired back. I've never done anything like that. You're the one who's always complaining and harassing me. Dave, believing Judy's lies, snapped at me. How dare you talk like that? You're such a bad wife. You never take responsibility for anything, and now you're siding against my mother? Stop butting in, Judy yelled at me. You should be grateful. It's because of me you even have the life you do. Dave began yelling at Anna and me more often, always taking Judy's side no matter what. Time passed, and Anna became a senior in high school. One evening after dinner, we were sitting in the living room, talking about her future. Anna's thinking about going to college, I told Dave. She's even narrowed it down to a few schools with the program she wants. Yeah, my teacher said this one college is a great match, Anna added. But Dave was just staring at his phone, ignoring us completely. Hey, are you even listening? I asked, annoyed. Shut up, he barked. If she wants to go to college, she can pay for it herself. I'm not wasting money on a stupid daughter who can't even take care of her grandmother. What? His words stunned me. What are you even talking about? Anna shot back. I don't have any money of my own. That's so irresponsible, Dad. Oh, you have some nerve. You just depend on me whenever you need something. You're just as thick-skinned as your mother. I wonder what kind of education she gave you. What? Anna gasped, visibly hurt. Dave was getting angrier, and before I could respond, Judy chimed in. If the mother is no good, then the daughter won't be any better. A girl like her doesn't deserve anything. That's right, Dave agreed. Why should I pay for a selfish, stupid daughter like her? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could they call Anna selfish? We had been saving for her college all along, and it wasn't like we couldn't afford it. They were just trying to hurt us. That was the last straw. If this is how it's going to be, fine, I said firmly. I'm getting a divorce. Dave laughed bitterly. Go ahead, do whatever you want. You won't be able to afford Anna's college on your own, idiot. He glared at me and continued. I don't want a useless wife who can't take care of my family, and I don't want a stupid daughter raised by someone like you. And don't think you'll get any of our savings. That money is for my family, mainly my mother. I stood my ground and looked him in the eye. Oh, I see. Well, I hope you enjoy living in a world where your arrogance is tolerated. Dave yelled at me again, but this time, I didn't flinch. Instead, I turned to Anna and said gently, don't worry about the money, Anna, just come with me. Anna, surprised by everything happening so suddenly, stayed silent. You were going to run to your father and cry to him, weren't you? Judy sneered at Anna. He must be so annoyed with you, always depending on him at your age. Then again, I guess it makes sense. He's the one who raised you to be his idiot daughter. Anna glared back at her grandmother. You get angry when someone insults your family, but you don't think twice about speaking badly about other people's families. You're such a hypocrite. Hearing that, Anna seemed to have a moment of realization. Let's go, Anna, I said firmly. Yeah, I'll follow you, Mom. With that, Anna and I left Judy's house. For the time being, we decided to stay with my parents. A few days later, I contacted a lawyer to start the divorce process. I sent a formal letter of intent to Dave. Not long after, Dave showed up at my parents' house. What are you doing here? I asked as I opened the door. I'm sorry, he blurted out. I sincerely apologize. I don't want a divorce. Please, come back home. He looked pathetic, clinging to me with a desperate expression. But I had already noticed something suspicious. Our joint savings account was rapidly decreasing. After investigating through the credit card agency, I discovered the truth. Dave had been spending money at hostess clubs. He was preparing for the divorce and, apparently, had proposed to one of the hostesses there. He had even said to her, I'm going to divorce my wife, so marry me. Huh? What are you talking about? The hostess had replied. I truly love you. I can make you happy, Dave insisted. No thanks. I'm not really looking for that, she said, turning him down. When she rejected him, Dave became relentless. He stalked her and kept harassing her, which eventually led to him being banned from the club and blocked from contacting her. Still, Dave wouldn't give up. He waited outside the club to catch her. I'm serious, please listen to me. I have to go to work, she said coldly. Just give me 5 minutes, please. I'm in a hurry, she replied, brushing him off. When Dave's colleagues saw him loitering near the club repeatedly, word got back to his workplace. His boss called him in for questioning. "I've heard about your behavior at the club," his boss said. "Stalking a hostess? That's not acceptable." "I'm serious about her. I'm thinking of marrying her. I really love her," Dave argued. His boss frowned. "I understand you might feel strongly, but it doesn't seem like she feels the same way. Besides, I thought you had a wife and daughter?" "Oh, my wife and I are divorcing," Dave said dismissively. "My wife and daughter are annoying. They keep bothering me about paying for college. That hostess is a much better woman than my selfish wife and daughter." "What?" his boss said, appalled. "What kind of logic is that? As a husband, you should be supporting your wife. Did you even listen to her side of things?" Dave stammered. "Well, but my mother." "That's the problem. You only listen to your mother. You should have been listening to your wife too. And as for your daughter, how can you ignore her future and focus on chasing another woman? That's disgraceful for a father." Shaken by his boss's stern tone, Dave could only mumble, "Yes, sir." As a result, Dave was demoted and given a pay cut. Meanwhile, I sent him another letter, this time demanding full custody of Anna, a fair division of property, and for the money he spent at the club to be counted as alimony. Dave tried to beg me again. "I'm so sorry, I was wrong. Let's start over. Even if we don't divorce, you still have to pay back the money you wasted behind my back," I said calmly. "What?" he gasped, clearly caught off guard. It was obvious he didn't want to pay, he just didn't want to face the consequences of his actions. I sighed in disgust. "I handled all the house chores, looked after Anna, and even cared for your mother, while you did nothing but tear us down. I'm done. I can never get back together with someone like you," I said coldly, "a man who decided the future of Anna and me without even asking, who abandoned his responsibilities as a father, and chased after young, cute girls. You're nothing but a selfish coward." Dave's face twisted with shock and shame. I refused him, once and for all. From behind me, Anna stepped forward. "I'm really sorry," Dave begged, noticing her. "I'll be a good father to you this time, I promise. Please, let's start over." Anna crossed her arms and stared at him, her voice cutting through the silence. "Do you have any idea what I've been through these past few months? If you think you can fix this with one pathetic apology, you're even stupider than I thought. Just because I'm a high schooler, you've always looked down on me." She narrowed her eyes, her voice dripping with disgust. "A father who takes away his daughter's future to fund his creepy obsession with young women? You're just gross." Dave's shoulders slumped as her words hit him like a slap. For the first time, it seemed he understood how completely he had failed us both. He said nothing and walked away, his head hanging in defeat. After that, Dave spiraled into depression. The hostess he had been obsessed with rejected him yet again, disgusted by his persistence. "I can't stand middle-aged men who confuse fantasy with reality," she reportedly told him before cutting all contact for good. With no one left to turn to, Dave finally paid the money I had demanded, to cover the alimony and the funds he wasted at the club. He had to dip into his inheritance from his late father, but even that wasn't enough, and the rest was arranged in monthly installments. The alimony, child support, and his reduced salary left Dave barely scraping by. His once comfortable life had become a lonely, exhausting struggle. One day, Judy came to my parents' house, uninvited and furious. "You've ruined everything," she screamed at my front door. "You've made my life miserable. I forgive you for all of this, so you should forgive my son and come back home." I was fed up. I stepped outside, meeting her wild eyes with calm resolve. "Forgive your son?" I said firmly. "I'm not his wife anymore, and if you keep harassing me, I'll file a formal claim for the emotional abuse you put me through when we lived together. I've kept records of everything." Judy's face turned red with anger. "How dare you talk to me like that?" Dave arrived then, looking annoyed and exhausted. "Mom, what are you even doing here?" "I'm trying to get your stubborn wife back in line," Judy shouted. "She's not my wife anymore, and you're making things worse for me," Dave snapped. For the first time, he stood up to his mother. Frustrated and embarrassed, Dave decided to put Judy in a care facility. The cost of her care, combined with the alimony and child support, made his life even harder. Now, he was stuck doing all the housework himself and living a lonely, regretful life. Another tough month, he muttered to himself as he struggled to make ends meet. Meanwhile, Anna and I found peace. Life at my parents' house was calm, and Anna poured all her energy into preparing for her college entrance exams. One evening, as I placed dinner in front of her, she smiled at me. "Why don't you take a break, Mom?" "Thanks," I said, sitting down beside her. "I've been meaning to eat. It smells so good." Anna nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "You've been working so hard for me, but don't push yourself too much. I'm your daughter, after all, and since you don't have great luck with men, I'm going to become an independent woman who never has to rely on anyone else." I laughed at her teasing tone. "Oh, is that so?" "Yep," she said with a grin. "I'll make sure to build a life I can be proud of." And as I watched my daughter chase her dreams, I silently promised to always support her, no matter what. Her happiness, her future, it meant everything to me.
It was a typical Tuesday morning when my world tilted on its axis. I was sipping my lukewarm coffee, trying to muster the energy to tackle the endless spreadsheets waiting for me at work, when my laptop pinged with a new email. The subject line read, "For your eyes only." It was the kind of message that made your stomach drop before you even opened it. "My name is Harper, and I'm an urban planner with a knack for finding the beauty in chaos. I've spent years designing spaces that bring people together, but nothing could prepare me for the mess I was about to dive into. I've been engaged to Ethan for a year, and while most of our relationship has been a dream, his family has always been a thorn in our side. Especially Vanessa, his sister, whose presence is as overwhelming as her social media following. Curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked on the email. It was anonymous, filled with screenshots of financial transactions that didn't make sense. Money was being siphoned from Ethan's accounts, and the name attached to these transactions was none other than Vanessa Calloway. My heart raced as I scrolled through the evidence. It felt like a scene from a bad thriller, but this was my life. I sat there, staring at the screen, my mind a whirlpool of confusion and disbelief. Was this real? Could Vanessa really be stealing from her brother? And why would someone send this to me? The questions buzzed around my head like angry bees. As I closed the laptop, I felt a chill run down my spine. There was no denying it. Something was seriously wrong. Ethan walked into the room, his hair still damp from his morning shower. "Hey, you ready for work?" he asked, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. "Yeah, just finishing up some last-minute stuff," I replied, forcing a smile. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. I wanted to tell him, to lay everything out and demand answers, but a part of me hesitated. What if there was more to this than just Vanessa's greed? What if I was missing a piece of the puzzle? Ethan leaned over and kissed my forehead, his touch warm and reassuring. "You okay? You look a bit distracted." "Just thinking about work," I lied, my stomach twisting with guilt. I hated keeping things from him, but I needed time to think, to figure out the best way to protect him without causing unnecessary pain. As I watched him leave for the office, I felt a pang of regret. I knew I couldn't sit on this information forever. But for now, I needed to gather more evidence, to understand the full picture before confronting him. I took a deep breath and decided to do some digging of my own. Throughout the day, I tried to focus on my work, but my mind kept drifting back to that email. I replayed every interaction I'd had with Vanessa, searching for signs I might have missed. She was always so charming, so effortlessly confident. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe her charisma was just a mask, hiding something darker underneath. I spent my lunch break scrolling through Vanessa's social media, looking for anything that could hint at financial trouble or desperation. But all I saw were perfectly curated images of exotic vacations, designer clothes, and glamorous parties. It was a life that seemed far removed from any financial woes. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her story. By the time I got home, I was exhausted, both physically and mentally. Ethan was already there, cooking dinner, the smell of garlic and herbs filling the air. He looked up as I entered, a smile lighting up his face. "Hey, how was your day?" "It was interesting," I replied, trying to sound casual. But inside, I was a bundle of nerves, wound tight and ready to snap. As we sat down to eat, I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't keep this to myself any longer. But how do you tell the person you love that their own sister might be betraying them? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. And then, just as I was about to speak, my phone buzzed with another email notification. I glanced at the screen, my heart skipping a beat as I read the subject line, "You're not safe." The words sent a shiver down my spine, and I knew this was just the beginning. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than I'd imagined, and I was right in the middle of it. The Calloway family dinners were always a test of endurance. Margaret's dining room was a shrine to tradition, with its heavy drapes and antique china, a stark contrast to the tension simmering beneath the surface. As Ethan and I stepped inside, I could feel the weight of expectations settling over me like a too-tight sweater. Margaret greeted us with a polite smile, her eyes scanning me with the precision of a seasoned banker assessing a risky investment. "Harper, dear, so lovely to see you," she said, her voice smooth but lacking warmth. "Thank you, Margaret." "It's nice to be here," I replied, matching her tone. Ethan squeezed my hand, a silent pledge of solidarity amidst the storm. Vanessa was already at the table, scrolling through her phone with the practiced indifference of someone who knew the world was watching her every move. She looked up, flashing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hey, Harper. Loving the outfit. Very urban chic." I nodded, trying not to roll my eyes. "Thanks, Vanessa. You look great too," I replied, my words as hollow as hers. Dinner commenced with the usual small talk, the kind that danced around the real issues without ever addressing them. Margaret asked Ethan about work, her questions pointed and probing, while Vanessa interjected with stories of her latest influencer escapades. Ethan played along, his laughter a little too forced, his eyes darting to me every so often as if checking to make sure I was still there. As the evening wore on, Margaret turned her attention to me. "So, Harper, how's the planning world treating you? Still building those inclusive communities?" I nodded, keeping my smile fixed. "Yes, it's going well. We've just started a new project downtown. It's exciting to see how we can transform spaces to bring people together." "Interesting," Margaret replied, her tone suggesting otherwise. "I suppose it's quite a challenge, trying to make everyone happy." "It is," I agreed. "But it's worth it when you see the impact it can have." Vanessa leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "Speaking of challenges, Harper, I heard you've been quite busy lately. Anything new on your plate?" Her words were innocent enough, but there was an edge to them, a subtle jab that made my skin prickle. I met her gaze, refusing to flinch. "Just the usual work stuff. Nothing too exciting." Ethan shifted in his seat, sensing the undercurrent, but unsure how to navigate it. "Vanessa, have you thought about collaborating with Harper on one of her projects? Your influence could really bring attention to the cause." Vanessa laughed, a tinkling sound that felt rehearsed. "Oh, Ethan, I don't think Harper needs my help. She's doing just fine on her own." Margaret's eyes flicked between us, her expression unreadable. "Well, I'm sure Harper appreciates the offer," she said, her voice like velvet over steel. I forced another smile, my patience wearing thin. "Of course, collaboration is always welcome." As dessert was served, I excused myself to the bathroom, needing a moment to breathe. The email from earlier still weighed heavily on my mind, and the dinner had only added to the pressure. I splashed some cold water on my face, trying to clear my thoughts. When I returned, I caught the tail end of a conversation between Ethan and his parents. Robert, usually the silent observer, was speaking with unusual fervor. "Ethan, we only want what's best for you. Family is important." Ethan nodded, his jaw set. "I know, Dad. But Harper is my family too." The room went quiet, the air thick with unspoken words. Vanessa's eyes flicked to me, something like surprise crossing her features before she masked it with a smile. "Well, family dinners are always interesting, aren't they?" I took my seat, feeling the tension coil tighter. The night ended with polite goodbyes and promises to do this again soon, though I doubted anyone truly meant it. As we drove home, Ethan was unusually quiet, his fingers tapping a restless rhythm on the steering wheel. "Harper, I'm sorry about tonight. They can be intense." I reached over, placing my hand over his. "It's okay. I know they mean well in their own way." He sighed, glancing at me with a mixture of gratitude and frustration. "I just wish they could see how amazing you are. How much you mean to me." I smiled, touched by his words. But the unease lingered, a shadow that refused to be dispelled. And as we pulled into our driveway, I knew that the family dinner had only scratched the surface of the turmoil to come. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of determination simmering beneath my skin. Last night's dinner had only confirmed what I already knew. Something had to give. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine while Vanessa was potentially stealing from Ethan. The email evidence was a ticking time bomb, and it was time to defuse it. After Ethan left for work, I sat at the kitchen table, the email open on my laptop. My heart pounded as I reread the transactions, each one a betrayal that cut deeper than the last. I knew I had to tell Ethan, no matter how much it hurt. When he returned home that evening, I was ready. We settled on the couch, and I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what I was about to do. "Ethan, there's something we need to talk about," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. He looked at me, concern etched on his face. "What's going on, Harper?" I handed him the laptop, the email displayed in stark black and white. "I got this a couple of days ago. It's about Vanessa." Ethan's eyes scanned the screen, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. This can't be right," he said, his voice tight with shock. "I know it's hard to believe," I replied gently, "but we need to figure out what's going on. I didn't want to keep it from you, but I had to be sure." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration and disbelief. Why would she do this? Vanessa's always been difficult, but this. "I don't know," I said, my heart aching for him. "But we need to confront her. We can't just let this slide." Ethan nodded, his resolve hardening. "You're right. We need answers." The next day, Ethan arranged to meet Vanessa at a cafe downtown. I insisted on coming along, needing to see the confrontation through. As we walked in, Vanessa was already there, sipping a latte with the practiced grace of someone who knew they were being watched. "Hey, you two," she greeted us, her smile bright but brittle. Ethan didn't waste time. "Vanessa, we need to talk about something serious." Her smile faltered, a flicker of unease crossing her face. "Okay, what's this about?" He placed the laptop on the table, the email open for her to see. "Can you explain this?" Vanessa's eyes widened as she took in the information, her expression shifting from surprise to indignation. "This is ridiculous. You think I'd steal from you, Ethan? Then how do you explain these transactions?" Ethan pressed, his voice a mixture of anger and hurt. She hesitated, and for a moment, I thought she might confess. But then her gaze hardened. "I don't know what this is, but it's not me. Someone's trying to set me up." Ethan's jaw clenched, his frustration palpable. "Vanessa, we need the truth." Her eyes flashed with defiance. "I swear, Ethan, I didn't do this. You have to believe me." The tension hung heavy between us, an invisible barrier that seemed impossible to cross. I glanced at Ethan, seeing the conflict etched in his features. He wanted to believe her, but the evidence was damning. Just as I thought the conversation was reaching a dead end, Vanessa let slip, "You really think Mom would let something like this happen?" Ethan froze, his eyes narrowing. "What does Mom have to do with this?" Vanessa's expression shifted, a flicker of panic crossing her face. "Nothing. I just mean she's always watching out for us." But the damage was done. Ethan's suspicion was piqued, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind. There was more to this than just Vanessa's actions, and now it seemed Margaret might be involved too. As we left the cafe, Ethan was silent, his thoughts a storm of confusion and betrayal. I reached for his hand, offering what comfort I could. "We'll figure this out, Ethan. Together." He nodded, his grip tightening on mine. "I just never thought it would come to this. My own family." I understood his pain, the sense of betrayal cutting deeper than any physical wound. But I also knew that uncovering the truth was the only way forward. As we walked back to the car, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger battle. And whatever secrets lay buried in the Calloway family, we would face them together. The days following our confrontation with Vanessa were tense, like living in a pressure cooker with the heat slowly rising. Ethan and I were navigating a minefield, and every step felt precarious. We knew we had to address the elephant in the room, Margaret's possible involvement, but the question was how. One evening, Ethan came home with a determined look in his eyes. "We need to talk to my parents," he said, his voice firm but weary. "Are you sure?" I asked, my own doubts gnawing at me. What if it makes things worse? He shook his head, resolute. We can't keep avoiding it. If there's something more going on, we need to know. I nodded, understanding the necessity, even as my stomach twisted with anxiety. We agreed to visit them the next day, hoping for clarity but bracing for the fallout. The Callaway residence was as imposing as ever, its grandeur overshadowed by the tension that seemed to seep from its walls. Margaret greeted us with her usual poise, but there was an edge to her demeanor, as if she sensed the storm brewing. "To what do we owe this surprise visit?" she asked, her tone light but her eyes watchful. Ethan didn't waste time. "We need to talk about Vanessa and the money." Margaret's smile faltered, a flicker of something, fear, perhaps, crossing her face. "What about it?" Ethan took a deep breath, his grip on my hand reassuring. "We have evidence that Vanessa might have been siphoning money from my accounts. And she mentioned something about you when we confronted her." Margaret's expression hardened, her gaze shifting to me as if searching for weakness. "And you believe her? You think I'm involved in some scheme against my own son?" The accusation hung heavy in the air, and I could feel Ethan's struggle, caught between loyalty to his family and the truth staring him in the face. "We just want to understand what's going on," he said, his voice a mix of frustration and pleading. Robert, who had been silent until now, cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should all sit down and discuss this calmly." Margaret shot him a look, but he held her gaze, a silent communication passing between them. Reluctantly, she nodded, and we moved to the living room, the atmosphere tense and charged. As we settled into our seats, I noticed Margaret's fingers tapping a restless rhythm on the armrest, a small crack in her otherwise composed facade. "Vanessa has always been impulsive, but I assure you I have no knowledge of any financial misdeeds," she said, her voice steady but lacking conviction. Ethan leaned forward, his eyes searching hers. "Then why did she mention you? What aren't you telling us?" Margaret hesitated, a rare moment of vulnerability crossing her features before she masked it with resolve. "There are things you don't understand, Ethan. Family matters that are best left in the past." Her words were cryptic, a veil over whatever secrets lay beneath. But before Ethan could press further, Vanessa walked in, her expression a mixture of defiance and desperation. "I didn't do it," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I swear I didn't." Ethan turned to her, his frustration evident. "Then why all the secrecy? Why drag Mom into this?" Vanessa's eyes flicked to Margaret, a silent plea for help. But Margaret remained silent, her lips pressed into a thin line. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken truths, until Robert spoke up, his voice calm but firm. "Perhaps it's time we all stopped dancing around the issue. If there's something going on, it's better to address it now." Margaret's gaze softened, a rare glimpse of the woman behind the armor. "It's complicated, Ethan. There are things I've done to protect this family, to keep us together." Her admission hung in the air, a crack in the foundation that threatened to widen. I could see Ethan's resolve wavering, torn between anger and a desire to understand. I placed a hand on his arm, grounding him in the moment. "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Together." The room was silent, the weight of the truth pressing down on us all. And in that moment, I realized that this was about more than just money or betrayal. It was about a family grappling with its own demons, and the lengths they would go to protect their own. As we left the house, I felt a shift in the air, a sense of inevitability that left me both anxious and strangely hopeful. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, it felt like we were moving towards something real, something honest. And whatever lay ahead, I knew we would face it together. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across the room. I lay awake, the weight of everything pressing down on me like a heavy blanket. The confrontation with Margaret had left more questions than answers. And the family's silence was a deafening reminder of the secrets that still lay hidden. Ethan was already up, pacing the kitchen with a cup of coffee in hand. His eyes were shadowed with fatigue, the strain of the past few days evident in every line of his face. "We need to do something," he said, breaking the silence. I nodded, though I wasn't sure what that something was. "Maybe we should talk to my dad," I suggested, thinking of Gregory's steady wisdom. "He might have some insight on how to handle this." Ethan agreed, and later that day, We found ourselves at my father's house. Gregory greeted us with his usual warmth, his presence a balm against the chaos. Over tea, we laid out the situation, from the financial discrepancies to the cryptic hints of family secrets. Gregory listened intently, his expression thoughtful. "It sounds like there's a lot more going on beneath the surface," he said, his voice calm and measured. "You need to approach this with care, but also with honesty. Secrets have a way of festering if left unchecked." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I just don't know how to get through to them. It's like they're all hiding something, and I'm stuck in the middle." Gregory nodded, a sympathetic smile on his lips. "Sometimes, the best way to deal with secrets is to bring them into the light. Confront them head-on, but be prepared for what you might find." As we left, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, though the path ahead was still uncertain. We needed to confront the family to demand the truth, but it was a daunting prospect. Back at home, Ethan and I discussed our next steps, our conversation punctuated by tense silences. "We should get everyone together," Ethan suggested. "Lay everything out and see what happens." I hesitated, the thought of another confrontation filling me with dread. But Gregory's words echoed in my mind, urging me to face the truth. "Okay," I agreed. "But we need to be prepared for whatever comes out." The following weekend, we gathered the Calloway family at Ethan's parents' house. The air was thick with unspoken tension, everyone on edge as we settled into the living room. Ethan took a deep breath, his resolve unwavering. "We need to talk about what's been happening. About the money and whatever else is going on." Margaret's eyes narrowed, her defenses rising. "I told you, I don't know anything about this." Vanessa, seated beside her, looked equally defiant. "And I already said I didn't do it." Ethan's frustration boiled over, his voice rising. "Then why all the secrecy? Why can't we just be honest with each other?" The room fell silent, the weight of the moment pressing down on us all. It was Robert who finally broke the silence, his voice steady but grave. "There are things that have been kept from you, Ethan. Things that we thought were best left in the past." Ethan turned to him, confusion and hurt in his eyes. "What are you talking about, Dad?" Robert exchanged a glance with Margaret, a silent conversation passing between them. "Your mother and I have been dealing with some financial issues. We didn't want to burden you with it." Margaret's expression softened, a rare vulnerability showing through. "We thought we could handle it ourselves, but things got out of hand." Vanessa shifted uncomfortably, her bravado crumbling. "I tried to help, but it just made things worse." The revelation hung in the air, a tangled web of deceit and good intentions gone awry. Ethan's shoulders slumped, the weight of it all crashing down on him. "Why didn't you tell me? We could have worked through this together." Margaret's eyes glistened with unshed tears, her voice barely a whisper. "We didn't want to worry you. You have your own life, your own future to think about." Ethan looked at me, searching for support, and I nodded, my heart aching for him. "We're in this together," I said softly. "We'll figure it out." As the family began to talk, the tension slowly eased, replaced by a tentative hope. The road ahead was still fraught with challenges, but for the first time, it felt like we were moving in the right direction. And as we left the Calloway house that evening, I realized that justice wasn't about punishment or revenge. It was about understanding, about finding a way to heal the wounds that had been hidden for too long. And with that understanding came a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to build a future free from the shadows of the past. The Calloway family meeting had left me emotionally drained, and as Ethan and I drove home, a heavy silence settled between us. The revelations about the financial troubles were just the tip of the iceberg, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down on us both. It was as if we were standing on the edge of a precipice, and one wrong move could send everything crashing down. Ethan's grip on the steering wheel was tight, his knuckles white with tension. "I can't believe they kept this from me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "All these years, and I never knew." I reached over, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "They thought they were protecting you," I offered, though the words felt hollow even to my ears. He shook his head, frustration etched into every line of his face. "But at what cost? We're supposed to be a family, Harper. Families don't keep secrets like this." I nodded, understanding his pain all too well. The Callaways were a family bound by secrets, and now those secrets were threatening to tear them apart. But as much as I wanted to help, I felt like an outsider looking in, powerless to stop the unraveling. Back at our apartment, Ethan paced the living room, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. "What are we supposed to do now?" he asked, his voice tinged with desperation. I hesitated, unsure of how to answer. "Maybe we need to give them time. Let them sort through their own issues." He stopped, turning to face me, his eyes searching mine. "And what about us? Where does this leave us?" The question hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty. I wanted to reassure him, to promise that everything would be okay, but the truth was, I didn't know. The path ahead was murky, and for the first time, I doubted whether we could find our way through it. As the days passed, the tension between us grew, a silent chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. Ethan threw himself into his work, spending long hours at the office, while I buried myself in my own projects, trying to distract myself from the gnawing sense of dread. One evening, as I was leaving the office, my phone buzzed with a new email. The subject line read, "Final warning." My heart skipped a beat, the ominous words sending a chill down my spine. I opened the email, my eyes scanning the text with growing horror. It was another anonymous message, warning me to stay out of Callaway family affairs. The words were threatening, a stark reminder of the forces at play behind the scenes. I felt a cold sweat break out across my skin, the fear settling deep in my bones. When I got home, Ethan was already there, his expression weary and defeated. "We need to talk," he said, his voice strained. I nodded, my heart heavy with the burden of the email. "I got another message," I admitted, handing him my phone. He read the email, his face darkening with anger. "This has to stop," he said, his voice trembling with barely contained rage. "I won't let them scare you away." "But what can we do?" I asked, my own frustration bubbling to the surface. "We're up against something bigger than us, Ethan." His eyes met mine, a flicker of determination breaking through the despair. "We fight back. We don't let them win." As much as I wanted to believe him, the odds felt insurmountable. The Callaway family was a fortress, and we were outsiders trying to break through the walls. But Ethan's resolve was infectious, and despite my doubts, I found myself nodding in agreement. "Okay," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "We'll do this together." The days that followed were a blur of strategy and planning, as we worked to uncover the truth and bring the family's secrets to light. But the threats continued, a constant reminder of the danger lurking in the shadows. And then, just when it seemed like we were making progress, the final blow came. A letter arrived at our apartment, unsigned but unmistakable in its intent. It was a demand for silence, a threat to expose my own family's vulnerabilities if we didn't back off. I felt the ground shift beneath me, the realization hitting me like a tidal wave. This wasn't just about the Callaways anymore. It was about my family too. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward seemed more perilous than ever. As I stood there, the letter clutched in my trembling hands, I knew we were at a crossroads. The fight for justice had become personal, and the lines between right and wrong were blurring. But even in the face of uncertainty, one thing was clear. We couldn't back down now. Not when so much was at stake. The tension was palpable as Ethan and I arrived at the Callaway residence for what we hoped would be the final confrontation. The air was thick with anticipation, the kind that made your skin prickle and your heart race. We had called this meeting, determined to finally bring everything into the open and lay the family's secrets bare. As we entered the living room, Vanessa was already there, her expression a mask of defiance. Margaret sat beside her, her posture rigid, while Robert stood by the window, his gaze distant and contemplative. The room felt like a powder keg, and we were the match ready to ignite it. Ethan took a deep breath, his resolve evident in the set of his shoulders. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. "We're here because we need to address the issues that have been tearing this family apart." Margaret's eyes narrowed, suspicion clouding her features. "And what issues would those be, Ethan?" Ethan exchanged a glance with me, and I nodded, encouraging him to continue. "The financial troubles, the secrets, the threats," he said, his words hanging in the air like a challenge. We can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not. Vanessa scoffed, her bravado barely concealing her anxiety. I've already told you I had nothing to do with the money. And yet, here we are, Ethan replied, his gaze unwavering. If it wasn't you, then who? And why all the secrecy? Robert cleared his throat, drawing our attention. There's more to this than you realize, Ethan. We've been trying to protect you, but perhaps it's time you knew the truth. The room went silent, the weight of his words pressing down on us all. Ethan's brow furrowed, confusion and determination warring within him. What truth? Margaret shifted, her facade cracking ever so slightly. We've been dealing with some legal issues, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Things that could affect the entire family. Vanessa's eyes widened, genuine surprise flashing across her face. What are you talking about, Mom? Margaret hesitated, her gaze flicking to Robert for support. It's complicated, but we've been under investigation for some financial discrepancies at the bank. We didn't want to drag you into it. Ethan's jaw tightened, the betrayal cutting deep. And you thought keeping us in the dark was the solution? Margaret's expression softened, regret mingling with her resolve. We thought we could handle it. But things spiraled out of control. The revelation hit like a punch to the gut, the pieces of the puzzle finally falling into place. The siphoned funds, the threats, they were all part of a larger scheme, one that had ensnared the entire family. But before we could fully process the implications, Vanessa spoke up, her voice shaking. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know about any of this. Ethan turned to her, his anger tempered by a flicker of empathy. Then why the secrecy? Why didn't you come to me? Vanessa's bravado crumbled, vulnerability shining through. I was scared, okay? I didn't want to lose you, Ethan. You're the only one who's ever really understood me. The admission hung in the air, a fragile truth that shifted the dynamics in the room. Ethan's expression softened, the anger giving way to understanding. We're family, Vanessa. We should have faced this together. As the tension slowly eased, I felt a renewed sense of hope. The confrontation had brought long-buried secrets to light, and with them, the possibility of healing. But just as it seemed like we were reaching a resolution, Robert spoke again, his voice grave. There's one more thing you should know. The investigation isn't just about the bank. It involves some questionable dealings that could impact your future, Ethan. Ethan's eyes widened, the implications crashing down on him. What do you mean? Robert sighed, the weight of his words heavy with regret. There are business associates who might try to use this against you, to leverage your position. It's why we've been so cautious. The revelation was a final twist, a reminder that the fight wasn't over yet. But as I looked around the room, at the family finally united in purpose, I knew we would face it together. In that moment, I realized that justice wasn't about revenge or retribution. It was about truth, about bringing light to the shadows and finding a way forward. And as Ethan and I left the Calloway house, hand in hand, I knew we were ready to face whatever came next together. The weeks following our confrontation with the Calloway family were a whirlwind of change and reflection. The truth had been laid bare, and with it came the slow, tentative process of healing. Ethan and I found solace in each other, our bond strengthened by the trials we had faced together. One crisp autumn morning, Ethan and I sat on the porch of our apartment, sipping coffee and watching the leaves dance in the wind. The air was filled with a sense of renewal, a reminder that even after the harshest storms, life continues to grow. Ethan turned to me, a soft smile playing on his lips. I've been thinking a lot about what's next for us, he said, his voice steady and hopeful. I nodded, feeling the warmth of his words seep into my bones. Me too. It feels like we've come through the worst of it. He reached for my hand, his touch a comforting anchor. I know things have been tough, but I'm grateful we faced it together. I don't know what I'd do without you, Harper. I squeezed his hand, my heart swelling with emotion. We're stronger because of it. And I think your family is too. The Calloways had begun to mend their fractured relationships, slowly but surely. Vanessa had taken responsibility for her actions, acknowledging the damage her insecurities had caused. She was working to rebuild trust with Ethan, her sincerity a welcome change from the manipulative facade she once wore. Margaret, too, had softened, her protective instincts tempered by a newfound understanding. She had reached out to me, her apology heartfelt and genuine. It was a small step, but one that hinted at the possibility of reconciliation. As we sat in comfortable silence, the doorbell rang, breaking the tranquility of the morning. I rose to answer it, surprised to find a courier holding a small package addressed to me. Curious, I opened it to find a letter from Margaret, her handwriting neat and precise. Inside was a note, simple yet profound. Harper, I owe you an apology, not just for the past few months, but for the way I've treated you since you entered our lives. I see now that my fears of losing Ethan blinded me to the wonderful person you are. Thank you for standing by him, and for helping us see the truth. With gratitude, Margaret. The words were a balm to old wounds, a gesture of peace that I hadn't expected but deeply appreciated. I felt a sense of closure, a weight lifting from my shoulders as I shared the letter with Ethan. He read it, his eyes shining with emotion. I knew she'd come around eventually, he said, his voice filled with pride and relief. We spent the rest of the day reflecting on our journey, the challenges we'd faced, and the growth that had come from them. The themes of justice and protection had woven through our lives, guiding us to a place of understanding and acceptance. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Ethan turned to me, a thoughtful expression on his face. Do you ever wonder what's next for us? I smiled, feeling a sense of peace settle over me. I think whatever it is, we'll face it together. And that's enough for me. His eyes met mine, a promise of the future we would build, free from the shadows of the past. Together, he echoed, his voice a soft vow. And as we sat there, hand in hand, I realized that the journey was far from over. There would be new challenges, new revelations, and perhaps even new secrets to uncover. But whatever lay ahead, I knew we were ready to face it, armed with the lessons we'd learned and the strength we'd gained. The story of the Callaways was one of redemption and forgiveness, of finding light in the darkest of places. And as we looked to the future, I knew that our story was just beginning, a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds of family.
The coffee splashed across his crisp white shirt like modern art, dark brown bleeding into pristine fabric. Time slowed as I watched the liquid spread, my hands still frozen mid-gesture from the collision. Of all the ways to make an impression at the biggest tech conference of the year, this had to be the worst. I'm so sorry, I stammered, grabbing napkins from my bag. I was reading an email while walking. Stupid, I know. He looked down at the spreading stain, and to my surprise, laughed. Well, at least it wasn't hot coffee. Though I have to admit, this is a creative way to network. I'm Faith, and this is how I met Sam Mitchell. This is also how I started down a path that would teach me exactly how far a mother's love could twist into something dark and destructive. Let me buy you a new shirt, I offered, still mortified. There's a department store just across from the convention center. Only if you'll let me buy you another coffee after. The one you're wearing on my shirt looked pretty good. His smile was disarming, genuine in a way that made my guard slip. In the tech world, genuine anything was rare. Everyone was always selling something, pitching their next big idea, networking with ulterior motives. But Sam's eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled, and there wasn't a hint of artifice in his expression. 20 minutes later, we were walking back to the conference, Sam in a new blue button-down that actually suited him better than the white one. He carried 2 fresh coffees, having insisted on buying despite my protests. So, Faith Reynolds, he said, reading my conference badge. Founder of Mindful Tech. I've heard of your meditation app. Pretty impressive user growth last quarter. You follow app analytics in your spare time. When the developer is interesting enough. He handed me my coffee with another one of those genuine smiles. Though I have to admit, I pictured someone more Zen. Wearing flowing robes and speaking in riddles. Older, actually. Most successful tech founders I know are pushing 50 and talking about their 3rd divorce. I snorted into my coffee. Sorry to disappoint. Single, 32, and only one failed startup under my belt before this one took off. We ended up missing the next 2 conference sessions, sitting in the lobby trading stories about coding disasters and startup nightmares. Sam worked for a competing tech company, but there wasn't any of the usual industry tension. Instead, there was something electric in the way our conversation flowed, how one topic led naturally to another. "You should meet my mother," he said suddenly, after I'd finished telling him about my dad's reaction to my first successful funding round. "She's going to hate you." I blinked, thrown by the abrupt shift. Is that supposed to be a selling point? She hates anyone who might take attention away from her. It's actually become my litmus test for interesting people. His tone was light, but something flickered behind his eyes. Though fair warning, she's made 3 potential daughters-in-law cry at first meetings. Sounds charming. Does she also push children into gingerbread ovens? He laughed, but it didn't quite reach his eyes this time. Close. She's a retired school principal. Probably made more kids cry than Hansel and Gretel's witch ever did. My phone buzzed with a reminder, my presentation was in 15 minutes. As I stood to leave, Sam caught my hand. "Have dinner with me tonight," he said. "I promise no maternal introductions yet. Just good food and more coffee-free conversation." I should have recognized the warning signs in how he talked about his mother. Should have seen the shadow that crossed his face, the careful way he joked about her. But standing there, feeling the warmth of his hand on mine, all I could think about was how long it had been since someone had made me laugh like this. "Okay," I said. "But I picked the restaurant. Somewhere with dark furniture, just in case." I didn't know then that accepting that dinner invitation would set off a chain of events that would test every boundary I had. Every conviction I held. I didn't know that Carol Mitchell was already planning ways to destroy me, even before she knew I existed. 3 months of dating Sam felt like floating in a perfect bubble. Then came Sunday dinner at his mother's house, and reality hit like a brick through glass. Carol Mitchell's home looked exactly like you'd expect from a retired school principal: immaculate garden, pristine white trim. Every blade of grass standing at attention. She opened the door before we could ring the bell. "Samuel." She pulled him into a tight embrace, then turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And you must be Faith." The living room was a museum of Sam's achievements. Academic awards, sports trophies, professional accolades, all arranged with military precision. Family photos covered one wall, chronicling Sam's life from infancy to present. In every single one, Carol stood beside him, her hand possessively on his shoulder. "Sam tells me you're in computers?" Carol's voice dripped with polite disdain as she poured tea into delicate china cups. "I founded a tech company. We develop meditation and mindfulness apps." "How fascinating." She stirred her tea with precise movements. "Though I always thought meditation was rather self-indulgent. In my day, we dealt with stress by being productive." Sam shifted uncomfortably beside me. "Mom, Faith's company just secured major venture capital funding. They're projecting." "Samuel, dear, could you check the roast? I'm worried it might be overdone." The moment Sam left the room, Carol's demeanor shifted. The polite smile remained, but her eyes turned to steel. "Let's be direct, shall we? Samuel needs someone who understands family values. Traditional values. Not some startup girl playing at business." I set my teacup down carefully, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I care about Sam. That's not playing at anything." "Of course you do, dear. They all do, at first. But Samuel has responsibilities here. Family obligations. Surely you've noticed how much he's needed at home." The pieces clicked into place: Sam's constant phone calls from his mother, the guilt-laden requests for help with endless household tasks. The way he rearranged our dates when she claimed to need him. Sam's an adult. He can make his own choices. Carol's laugh was soft and cruel. Can he? Did he tell you about Rebecca? Lovely girl, wanted to move to Seattle for her career. Or Catherine, who thought she could convince him to spend Christmas with her family instead of here. They all thought they understood Samuel better than his own mother. The threat hung in the air between us, wrapped in doilies and served with tea. Sam returned, oblivious to the tension. Roast is perfect, Mom. Just like always. Through dinner, I watched their dynamic unfold like a horror show in slow motion. Every time Sam spoke about our relationship or his work, Carol redirected the conversation to his childhood or family obligations. When he mentioned our planned vacation, she clutched her chest and mentioned her upcoming medical tests. I do hope you'll be here for those, Samuel. The doctors say the results could be serious. I caught the flash of manipulation in her eyes. There were no medical tests. Of course, Mom. I'll reschedule the trip. Under the table, my nails dug into my palms. Sam's hand found mine, squeezed gently, missing the point entirely. Later, in the car, Sam was quiet. That wasn't so bad, right? Mom can be intense, but she means well. I thought about Carol's perfectly arranged shrine to control, about the casual way she'd threatened me over tea, about the women who'd come before me. Your mother just told me she has medical tests coming up, I said carefully. When are they scheduled? I'm not sure. Why? Because I think you should ask her for the specific dates. And the doctor's name. And the actual condition being tested. He frowned. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm telling you your mother lied to manipulate you into canceling our vacation. The car swerved slightly as Sam's hands tightened on the wheel. You don't know her. She wouldn't. Ask her, Sam. Just ask for the details. We drove in silence for several minutes before he spoke again. Even if. She's still my mother. In that moment, I understood exactly what I was up against. Carol Mitchell hadn't just built a cage for her son, she'd convinced him the bars were made of love. Fine. If she wanted war, I'd give her one. But we'd play by my rules, not hers. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, forwarded by a friend at another tech company. Thought you should see this, was all she wrote. My hands trembled as I read Carol's message to the board members of my largest investor. Allegations of intellectual property theft, hints at unstable behavior, carefully worded concerns about my company's financial stability. All wrapped in a concerned citizen's duty to protect investors from potential fraud. The phone rang. Sam's name flashed on the screen. Can't talk now, I said, my voice tight. Emergency board meeting. Everything okay? I stared at Carol's email signature, still using her title as school principal emeritus to lend authority to her accusations. Your mother's been busy. Silence stretched across the line. What do you mean? Ask her about the email she sent to my investors. The one where she suggests I'm unstable and my company's built on stolen code. That doesn't sound like. Don't. The word came out sharp enough to cut. Don't defend her. Not this time. After the board meeting, 3 hours of defending my reputation and providing documentation of my code's originality, I drove to Grace's art studio. My sister took one look at my face and pulled out the emergency whiskey she kept behind her paint supplies. She's escalating, I said, accepting the glass. First the medical tests lie, then the sudden plumbing emergency during our anniversary dinner, now this. Grace perched on her workbench, studying me. You know what Dad would say about this? That I should walk away. The whiskey burned going down. Let her win. That you're fighting the wrong battle. Grace's voice softened. You're trying to beat Carol at her own game, but she's had decades of practice at manipulation. You need to change the rules. I thought about Sam, about how he still couldn't see the patterns in his mother's behavior. About how every confrontation ended with him caught in the middle, trying to please everyone. I found Rebecca, I said quietly. The ex who wanted to move to Seattle. She works in tech too. Grace's eyebrows shot up. And? Carol didn't just guilt-trip her into staying. She called Rebecca's potential employers, told them Rebecca was unstable, had a history of professional misconduct. Killed her job prospects until Seattle wasn't even an option. Jesus. There were others too. Catherine, Emma, Sarah. Different tactics, same result. Carol systematically destroyed every relationship that threatened her control over Sam. My phone buzzed, another message from Sam. I ignored it. What are you going to do? Grace asked. I pulled out my laptop, opened the file I'd been building. Screenshots of Carol's emails, testimonies from Sam's exes, a timeline of her interventions. I'm going to show Sam exactly who his mother is. All of it, all at once. No more gradual revelations she can explain away. That could backfire spectacularly. Probably will. I took another sip of whiskey. But I'm done playing defense. Carol wants to paint me as unstable. Fine. Let's see how she handles someone who's actually willing to burn everything down. Grace was quiet for a long moment. You love him that much? Enough to risk losing him to save him? Yeah, I do. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from Carol, copied to Sam. She was deeply concerned about my emotional reaction to her civic duty of protecting investors. The subtext was clear. She was building a paper trail, establishing a pattern of instability she could use against me later. I forwarded it to my evidence file, then finally answered Sam's messages. Dinner tonight. We need to talk. Mom's worried about you, he wrote back. Says you seemed unstable at the board meeting. My laugh was bitter enough to make Grace wince. I'm fine, I typed. Just ready for the truth to come out. I closed my laptop, feeling the weight of the documentation inside it. Tonight, I'd show Sam everything. Every manipulation, every sabotaged relationship, every calculated move his mother had made to keep him under her control. Either it would open his eyes, or it would end us. But at least there'd be no more shadows for Carol to hide in, no more plausible deniability for her actions. Sometimes the only way to win is to change the game entirely. Sam proposed on a Tuesday evening, kneeling in the same spot where I'd first spilled coffee on him. Perfect, romantic, everything a proposal should be. Then his phone buzzed with his mother's ringtone, and reality crashed back in. She already knows, doesn't she? I asked as he reached for the phone. His silence was answer enough. The diamond ring felt suddenly heavy on my finger. I had to tell her, Faith. She's my mother. And I'm supposed to be your future wife. The words tasted bitter. Did she approve the ring too? His phone kept buzzing. Each vibration felt like a countdown to something inevitable. You should answer it, I said. Before she calls the police to report me kidnapping you. He winced but took the call. I watched his face change as Carol spoke, his joy dimming with each passing second. When he hung up, he looked pale. She wants us to come over. Now. Of course she does. Carol's house was dark except for the living room. She sat in her favorite armchair like a queen holding court, a manila envelope in her lap. Samuel, dear, could you make us some tea? The moment Sam left, Carol tossed the envelope onto the coffee table. Open it. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Me meeting with Rebecca and the other exes. Screenshots of emails. My evidence file against her, laid out in perfect chronological order. Did you really think I wouldn't have people watching you? Carol's voice was silk over steel. That I wouldn't know exactly what you were planning? Those women deserved to tell their stories. Those women were wrong for my son. Just like you're wrong for him. She leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to break off the engagement. Tell Samuel you're not ready for marriage, that you need to focus on your company. He'll be hurt, but he'll understand eventually. Or what? Or I release proof that you've been systematically harassing my son's ex-girlfriends, building a delusional conspiracy theory about his mother. Combined with your recent unstable behavior at work. She smiled. Well, tech investors are quite skittish about scandal, aren't they? The teacup rattled as Sam set it down. Neither of us had heard him return. Mom? What's going on? Carol's mask slipped back into place. Oh, Samuel. I was just explaining to Faith why this engagement is a mistake. She's been quite disturbed lately, gathering information about me, contacting your ex-girlfriends. Because you destroyed their lives. The words burst out before I could stop them. Tell him, Carol. Tell him about the jobs you ruined, the relationships you sabotaged. Tell him why he's never managed to keep a girlfriend for more than 6 months. Faith, you're becoming hysterical. Carol's voice dripped concern. This is exactly what I was worried about. I turned to Sam, desperate. Look at the photos. Read the emails. It's all there. He picked up the envelope with shaking hands, but Carol spoke first. Samuel, dear, remember what Dr. Harrison said about enabling paranoid behavior? Sometimes love means making hard choices. Dr. Harrison. The therapist Carol had insisted Sam see after his father died. Another piece clicked into place. She's been laying the groundwork for this for months, I realized. The concerns about my stability, the calls to my investors, all of it. She was building toward this moment. Sam stood frozen between us, the envelope clutched in his hands. The choice lay before him, look at the evidence or trust his mother one more time. Slowly, deliberately, he set the envelope down unopened. I think, he said quietly, we all need some time to calm down. In that moment, I saw our future play out. Years of Carol's manipulations, of Sam's willful blindness, of my own anger burning everything it touched. I slipped the ring off my finger. No, I said. What we need is the truth. All of it. But you have to want to see it, Sam. I placed the ring on the coffee table and walked out. Behind me, I heard Carol's triumphant intake of breath, Sam calling my name. I didn't look back. Some battles you win by refusing to fight them on your enemy's terms. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The man had been following me for 3 days. Always at a distance, always pretending to be absorbed in his phone, but there. Outside my office, near my favorite coffee shop, lurking at the edges of my routine like a persistent shadow. I caught his reflection in a store window, mid-50s, expensive suit, trying too hard to look casual. Not Carol's usual style, but then again, she was escalating. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam, can we talk? 3 weeks since I'd walked out of Carol's house, leaving my engagement ring behind. 3 weeks of his messages growing increasingly desperate as Carol's web of manipulation tightened around him. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned down an alley, then another, watching my shadow dance to keep up. At the third turn, I stopped abruptly and spun around. Either you're the worst private investigator ever, or you wanted me to notice you. He lowered his phone, smile sharp as a razor. Miss Reynolds. Shall we discuss this somewhere more comfortable? The cafe he chose was upscale, quiet. He ordered espresso and introduced himself as James Warner, P.I. Carol Mitchell hired you, I said. It wasn't a question. Among others. He slid a folder across the table. Your father's gambling debts from 15 years ago. Your sister's arrest record, sealed, but not irretrievable. Your company's early funding sources, some of which might raise regulatory eyebrows. My hands clenched around my coffee cup. Is this the part where you threaten to expose everything unless I stay away from Sam? Actually, this is the part where I offer to work for you instead. The cup froze halfway to my lips. What? Carol Mitchell has hired 4 different investigators in the past decade. Each time, we found exactly what she wanted, or manufactured it when necessary. But you? He leaned forward. You're different. You fight back. So this is what, professional admiration. This is business. Carol's getting sloppy. Desperate. The kind of desperate that leaves paper trails. Electronic records. Witnesses willing to talk, for the right price. My phone buzzed again. Sam, Mom's telling everyone you're having a breakdown. Please call me. Why should I trust you? I asked Warner. Because I have something Carol doesn't, proof that Sam's father didn't die of natural causes. The world tilted sideways. What? Let's just say Carol's control issues didn't start with you. Thomas Mitchell was planning to leave her, had consulted a divorce attorney. Then came the unfortunate accident with his heart medication. You're lying. He shrugged. Check the toxicology reports. Oh wait, they disappeared. Along with the attorney's files and Thomas's original will. Funny how that happens. My phone lit up with another message, this time from Grace. Faith, Sam's at my studio. He found the envelope. The one from Carol's house. He finally looked inside. Warner watched me read the message, his expression knowing. Tick-tock, Miss Reynolds. Carol's already laying groundwork to have you declared unstable. How long before there's another unfortunate accident? I thought about Carol's perfectly arranged house, her carefully constructed narratives. The way she'd systematically eliminated every threat to her control. How many lives had she destroyed? How many more would she ruin? If what you're saying about Thomas Mitchell is true, why didn't you expose her years ago? Professional courtesy. But trying to destroy your company, threatening your family? That crosses a line. He stood, dropping a business card on the table. Call me when you're ready to fight fire with fire. My phone buzzed one final time. Sam, I need to see you. Now. There are things about Mom. Things I should have seen years ago. I picked up Warner's card, feeling the weight of decisions yet to come. Carol wanted to play hardball. Fine. But she'd forgotten something crucial about tech entrepreneurs. We don't just disrupt markets. We disrupt everything. I texted Sam back, meet me at my office in an hour. Bring the envelope. Bring everything. Then I called Warner. I want every piece of evidence you have on Carol Mitchell. Every document, every witness, every secret she thought she'd buried. Whatever it costs. And what do you plan to do with it? I thought about Sam's father, about all the women whose lives Carol had destroyed, about the careful house of cards she'd built around her son. I planned to burn it all down. The mountain cabin was supposed to be our escape. 2 days away from Carol's schemes, from Warner's revelations, from the weight of everything we'd discovered. Sam had insisted, a chance to reconnect, to process, to plan our next move. I'd been sick all morning, blaming it on altitude and stress. But as I stared at the pregnancy test in the cabin's tiny bathroom, 2 pink lines mocked my carefully laid plans. Sam's voice came through the door. Faith? You okay? I opened the door, test in hand. His face cycled through confusion, shock, joy, and then, fear. Mom can't know, he said immediately. Not until we figure out how to handle this. But my phone was already buzzing. A text from an unknown number, congratulations on the little one. Carol sends her regards. Attached was a photo of me buying the pregnancy test at a gas station on our way up the mountain. She had people watching us even here. Sam read the message over my shoulder, his face hardening. I'll call her. Tell her to back off. Don't. I grabbed his arm. That's what she wants. To make you choose between your unborn child and your mother. Then what do we do? The cabin's window framed the mountains beyond, vast and indifferent. Somewhere out there, Carol was moving pieces on her board, always 3 steps ahead. The evidence Warner had provided about Sam's father's death was damning but circumstantial. Not enough to prove murder, just enough to destroy a family. "We leave," I said suddenly. "Tonight. My company has offices in Singapore. We can run away. Let her win." "Let her win what, Sam? She's already taken everything else. Your past relationships, your independence, maybe even your father. I won't let her take our child too." His phone lit up, Carol's number. He stared at it, conflict etched in every line of his face. "I need to tell her to stop. Just once. Make her understand. She understands perfectly. That's why she's winning." But he was already answering. I watched his expression change as Carol spoke, her words too quiet for me to hear but their impact visible in how Sam seemed to shrink, to fade. "Mom's coming up," he said after hanging up. "She's worried about us being isolated up here. Says there's a storm coming." "Of course she is." My laugh was bitter. "And you told her exactly where we are. She's still my mother, Faith. Is she? Or is she the woman who might have killed your father?" The words hung between us like smoke. Sam stepped back, shaking his head. "Those are just theories. Warner could be lying. Like I was lying about her sabotaging your other relationships. Like I was lying about her hiring PIs." Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. The storm Carol had warned about, right on cue. Even nature conspired with her timing. "I can't do this anymore," I said quietly. "I can't fight her and fight for you at the same time. Not with a baby coming." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you need to choose. Really choose, Sam. Not just say the words, but actually break free. Because I won't raise our child in Carol's shadow." He reached for me, but I stepped away. Through the window, I saw headlights winding up the mountain road. Carol, racing the storm to maintain her control. "I'll be at Grace's," I said, grabbing my bag. "When you're ready to choose your child over your mother's manipulation, you know where to find me." "Faith, please. Just wait until Mom gets here. We can talk about this." "That's the problem, Sam. We've been talking while she's been acting. And now." I pressed a hand to my stomach, where our child grew unaware of the chaos around it. "Now the stakes are too high for talk." I walked out into the gathering storm, leaving Sam standing in the doorway. Behind me, Carol's headlights grew closer, searching through the darkness like predators' eyes. Let her come. Let her spin her webs and pull her strings. I had something worth fighting for now, something that made all her schemes and manipulations seem small. I had a future to protect. Grace's baby shower was supposed to be a peace offering. Sam had finally agreed to marriage counseling, Carol had promised to maintain boundaries. And my sister thought celebrating new life might heal old wounds. We should have known better. I was opening gifts when Carol clinked her glass, rising with that perfect principal's posture. "Before we continue, I feel obligated to share something. For the baby's sake." The room went quiet. Sam tensed beside me. "Faith, dear, I've spoken with Dr. Harrison." Carol's voice carried perfectly, each word a carefully placed knife. "He's very concerned about your mental state. The paranoid accusations, the obsessive behavior, the sudden pregnancy right when Sam was pulling away." My hands clenched around the half-unwrapped onesie. "Don't. A baby shouldn't be a trap, dear. And Samuel deserves to know if this child is even." "Mom." Sam's voice cracked like thunder. "Stop." But Carol was on a roll, playing to her audience of friends and family. The timing is just so convenient. Right after he called off the engagement. "I called it off," I said, standing. "Because you might have murdered his father." The room went dead silent. Carol's face whitened, then flushed. How dare you? The toxicology reports disappeared, Carol. Just like Thomas's original will. Just like every woman who ever threatened your control over Sam. Faith, Sam warned, reaching for my arm. I shrugged him off. No more secrets. No more manipulation. Tell them about Rebecca's job offers. Tell them about Catherine's family. Tell them about the private investigators and the threats in. Carol moved faster than I expected. Her hand caught my arm, spinning me toward the stairs. You're hysterical. This is exactly what Dr. Harrison warned us about. Let go of me. Mom, stop. Sam tried to intervene. But Carol was beyond reason, her careful mask cracking. I will not let you destroy this family with your delusions. I will not let you take my son with your lies and your trap baby. I wrenched away. The world tilted. My foot caught the edge of the top stair. Time slowed. I saw Grace lunging forward, Sam's face contorting in horror, Carol's expression shifting from rage to something like satisfaction. Then I was falling. The impact drove the air from my lungs. Pain exploded through my side. Above me, voices shouted, feet thundered downstairs. Faith! Sam's face appeared over me, terror in his eyes. Don't move. We're calling an ambulance. The baby, I gasped. Sam, the baby. It's her own fault. Carol's voice floated down. She was hysterical, dangerous. Dr. Harrison will confirm. Shut up. Sam's voice was ice. Just shut up, Mom. I heard you. Everyone heard you. We all saw what you did. Samuel, I was trying to protect. Like you protected Dad? His words cut through the chaos. Did he need protection too? When he wanted to leave. Carol's face appeared at the top of the stairs, shock replacing satisfaction. Who told you? I found the original toxicology report. Sam's hand gripped mine as sirens wailed in the distance. Warner kept copies of everything. Everything, Mom. It's over. Blood was soaking through my dress. The pain was getting worse. But through it all, I saw Carol's mask finally shatter completely. I did it for you, she whispered. Everything I did was for you. No. Sam's voice broke. Everything you did was for yourself. The paramedics arrived in a blur of activity. As they loaded me onto the stretcher, I caught one last glimpse of Carol. She stood frozen at the top of the stairs, watching her carefully constructed world crumble, while Grace quietly filmed everything on her phone. Evidence, my sister mouthed, her artist's hands steady on the camera. Sam held my hand in the ambulance, his face wet with tears. I'm so sorry. I should have seen it sooner. Should have believed you. The baby, I managed through the pain. We'll fight for our family, he promised. No more manipulation. No more control. As consciousness faded, I thought of Carol standing alone at the top of those stairs. She'd wanted to destroy me, but in the end, she'd destroyed herself. Sometimes revenge looks exactly like justice. Thomas James Mitchell Reynolds weighed 4 pounds, 6 ounces when he entered the world fighting. Just like his mother, the nurses said. Just like his namesakes, the grandfather he'd never meet, and the father who'd raised me to recognize manipulation when I saw it. Sam hadn't left my side since the fall, through the emergency surgery, the weeks of bed rest. The premature labor that brought our son into the world 2 months early. Now he stood at the NICU window, watching our son breathe, while Grace's video evidence played on repeat in courtrooms and police stations. Carol's carefully constructed world had crumbled like a house of cards. The toxicology report Warner provided led to exhumation orders, to questions about Thomas Mitchell's death that couldn't be ignored. Her former victims came forward one by one, Rebecca, Catherine, others we hadn't even known about. Each story added another brick to the prison cell she'd built herself. She's asking to see him, Sam said quietly, not turning from the window. Says she has a right to meet her grandson. Through the glass, Thomas's tiny chest rose and fell, each breath a victory. Each moment alive a rebellion against the grandmother who'd tried to prevent his existence. What did you tell her? Nothing yet. But her lawyer says if we don't allow visitation, she'll claim diminished capacity. Say grief over Dad's death made her unstable. Use it to get a lighter sentence. Of course she would. Even now, Carol was manipulating, calculating, looking for angles to exploit. She'll never stop, will she? Sam pressed his hand against the glass. No. But we can. The NICU door opened. A nurse wheeled Thomas out in his incubator, tubes and wires making him look smaller than he was. But his eyes were open, alert, tracking our movements with an intensity that reminded me of those first moments with Sam. Coffee staining his shirt as our lives collided. Would you like to hold him? The nurse asked. I settled into the rocking chair as she placed Thomas in my arms. So small, yet so strong. Like love. Like truth. Like justice. I got another message from Warner, Sam said. Mom's been asking about Dad's original will. The one that disappeared. Seems he left half his estate to a daughter from his first marriage. A marriage Mom made him deny existed. I looked up sharply. Sam has a sister. He nodded. Living in Seattle. Right where Rebecca was trying to move us. Mom didn't just kill Dad's past, she killed my chance to know my family. Thomas squirmed in my arms, his tiny hand wrapping around my finger. Such a simple gesture, yet it contained everything Carol had spent her life destroying. Connection. Trust. Unconditional love. What do you want to do? I asked. I want to meet my sister. Want Thomas to know his aunt. Want to build something honest from all Mom's lies. He knelt beside us, touching our son's cheek. But first, I want to tell Mom exactly why she'll never see him. Not because we're cruel. Not because we want revenge. But because some choices can't be unmade. Through the window, dawn painted the city in shades of possibility. Somewhere out there, Carol sat in a cell, plotting her next move. Somewhere, Sam's sister was living her life, unaware she had a brother searching for her. And here, in this quiet room, our son breathed his defiance against darkness. We should name the company after him, I said suddenly. Sam looked puzzled. What? The new company. The one I'm building to help people recognize and escape manipulation. Thomas James Solutions. TJS. He smiled, understanding dawning. A legacy of truth instead of lies. Something good from something broken. Thomas sighed in his sleep, secure in the knowledge that some loves are stronger than manipulation. Some truths more powerful than carefully constructed lies. We'd built our happiness from the ashes of Carol's control, but we hadn't done it for revenge. We'd done it for him. For every truth he'd inherit, every choice he'd make freely. Every moment he'd live unburdened by the weight of someone else's desperate need for control. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply living well, loving fiercely, and letting truth light the way forward.
I never expected to find the manuscript that would tear my family apart while cleaning out Dad's study. But there it was, tucked between dusty physics journals and Mom's neuroscience papers, a story I wrote when I was 12, covered in my mother's red ink. My name is Riley, and I used to think being different was my biggest problem. Turns out it was just the beginning. What are you doing in here? Mom's sharp voice made me jump. I clutched the wrinkled pages to my chest, feeling like I'd been caught stealing rather than cleaning. Just organizing Dad's books before the department dinner, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Found something interesting though. Mom's eyes narrowed when she spotted the manuscript in my hands. Oh, that old thing. I meant to dispose of it years ago. The casual dismissal in her voice felt like a slap. I opened the pages, My childhood imagination marked up like a failed exam. You wrote that my story showed concerning priorities and was a waste of intellectual potential. My voice cracked. I was 12. Riley, dear, we've been through this. Mom perched on Dad's leather chair, assuming her lecture pose. The Thompson name carries certain expectations. Your sister Emily understood this by your age. She was already publishing research papers in junior journals. Right, because God forbid a Thompson do anything but science. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. Heaven help us if one of us actually wanted to create something different. Don't be dramatic. Mom stood, smoothing her blazer. We simply wanted to guide you toward more productive pursuits. Now, please finish organizing these books. The Whitakers will be here in an hour, and Charles is particularly interested in Emily's new research proposal. Of course he was. Dr. Charles Whitaker, the family friend who'd been hovering around our academic achievements like a vulture since before I was born. He'd probably wet himself with excitement over Emily's latest brilliant paper. I waited until Mom's heels clicked down the hallway before slumping into Dad's chair. The manuscript trembled in my hands as I flipped through more pages. Each red mark felt like a fresh wound.
Lex scientific merit.
Unrealistic premise. Consider focusing on observable phenomena instead of fantasy. My phone buzzed, a text from Mrs. Collins next door. Tea's ready when you need it, dear. Made those shortbread cookies you like. I smiled despite myself. Mrs. Collins, my elderly neighbor, had been more supportive of my writing than my entire family combined. She actually read my stories without trying to turn them into research papers. The sound of the front door opening echoed through the house, followed by Emily's voice. Mom? Dad? The prototype results came back early. I shoved the manuscript into my bag. No way was I sitting through another round of Emily the Prodigy tonight. As I headed for the door, a folder fell from Dad's desk. Papers scattered across the floor, and one caught my eye, an email printout from Dr. Whitaker to my parents. Regarding Riley's future prospects, concerns about maintaining the Thompson legacy, suggest redirecting her interests, Emily's continued success crucial to our plans. My hands shook as I read. They'd been planning my life behind my back, trying to force me into their perfect academic mold. And Dr. Whitaker, that smug bastard, was pulling strings I never even knew existed. I stuffed the email into my bag with the manuscript. Footsteps approached the study. Emily's excited chatter, Mom's proud responses, Dad's measured praise. I slipped out the side door before they could see me. Mrs. Collins was waiting on her porch with tea and understanding eyes. Rough day, dear. You could say that. I clutched my bag tighter, feeling the weight of my childhood dreams and their betrayal inside it. I think it's time I showed them exactly what a waste of intellectual potential can do. The sun was setting behind the university buildings, casting long shadows across our perfectly manicured lawn. In the growing darkness, I began to plan. The next morning, I found Emily in her home lab, hunched over a microscope like it held the secrets to the universe. Maybe for her, it did. I clutched my proposal in sweaty hands, trying to ignore the familiar sting of walking into her perfectly organized workspace.
Got a minute?
I asked, forcing cheerfulness into my voice. She didn't look up. Make it quick. I'm tracking cellular degradation patterns.
Of course she was.
I perched on a stool, unfolding my sketches. Remember how we used to make those science comics when we were kids? I had this idea. We could collaborate on an educational graphic novel. Make complex research accessible to everyone. The microscope's light clicked off. Emily finally turned, her expression a perfect mirror of Mom's disapproval. Riley, I have a breakthrough paper due next month. Dr. Whitaker is presenting it at the International Symposium. Right, because heaven forbid science be fun or accessible, I muttered, crumpling my sketches. Not everything needs to be turned into a story. Emily's voice softened with that patronizing tone I'd grown to hate. Maybe you should focus on something more substantial. The word hung between us like poison. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. You know what? Forget it. Enjoy your cellular whatever. Riley, wait. Emily called after me, but I was already gone. I stormed into the kitchen, nearly colliding with Dad. He was absorbed in his tablet, probably reviewing another groundbreaking physics paper. Dad, the city's holding a storytelling competition next week, I blurted out. The theme is science and society. I thought maybe you and Mom. Oh, that's nice, dear. He didn't look up. Did you hear about Emily's prototype? Charles thinks it could revolutionize neural imaging. My throat tightened. Yeah, hard to miss when it's all anyone talks about. The doorbell rang before Dad could respond. Through the window, I spotted Mrs. Collins on our porch, holding what looked like old photographs. Riley, dear, she beamed as I opened the door. Look what I found while cleaning my attic. Your grandmother used to write for the university paper back in the day. Dad's head snapped up. Margaret's mother never wrote for. Oh, not your wife's mother, Mrs. Collins interrupted cheerfully. Your mother, Harold. Quite the storyteller she was. Won awards for her science fiction pieces. The silence in the kitchen turned thick enough to cut. Dad's face went pale, then red. Those were just hobby pieces. Nothing serious. Really? I snatched the yellowed newspaper clippings from Mrs. Collins' hands. Local writers' science fiction series challenges traditional academic boundaries. Sounds pretty serious to me. Dad practically lunged for his car keys. I have a department meeting. After he fled, Mrs. Collins patted my arm. Your grandmother would have loved your stories, dear. She never did fit their mold either. That evening, I sat in my room, staring at my competition entry form. The prize included publication in a major literary magazine. A chance to prove I wasn't just the family disappointment. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. About earlier. I'm sorry if I seemed dismissive, but you know how important this research is.
I didn't respond.
Instead, I pulled out the email I'd found in Dad's study. There was more to it than I'd initially read. Riley's creative tendencies could pose a risk to the department's reputation. Best to redirect her before she draws unwanted attention. My hands shook as I signed the competition form. Let them ignore me. Let them dismiss me. I'd show them exactly what unwanted attention looked like. Through my window, I could see Emily's lab light still burning, her silhouette bent over that microscope. In Dad's study, Mom's voice carried faintly, probably another late-night call about Emily's brilliant future. I opened my laptop and began to write, my grandmother's rebellious spirit flowing through my fingers. They wanted to bury our creative legacy?
Fine.
I'd dig it up and wave it like a flag. The story poured out of me, a tale of family secrets and scientific arrogance. By morning, they'd see exactly what a Thompson's creativity could do. I wasn't meant to be in the university library that afternoon. But there I was, hiding behind a shelf of scientific journals, listening to Dr. Whitaker destroy what was left of my family's faith in me. The Thompson legacy is at a crucial juncture. His voice oozed through the stacks. Emily's work could secure the department's future for decades. But Riley, she's becoming a liability. Charles, she's still our daughter, Mom's voice wavered, surprising me. I'd never heard uncertainty in her tone before. Margaret, be reasonable. Your position on the board is precarious enough. Having one daughter rejecting everything we stand for, it raises questions about your influence. I peered through the gap between books. Mom sat rigid in her chair, while Dad stared out the window. Dr. Whitaker paced between them like a prosecutor delivering his closing argument. We've arranged everything, he continued. Emily's fellowship, her future position, the funding, it's all connected. We can't risk Riley's creative pursuits undermining our credibility. Dad finally spoke. What exactly are you suggesting? Nothing dramatic. Just guidance. I have connections at several research institutions. Programs that could redirect her energy toward more appropriate pursuits. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Mrs. Collins. Found more of your grandmother's writings. You need to see these. I started to back away, but knocked a book off the shelf. It hit the floor with a damning thud. Hello? Mom called out. Is someone there?
I ran.
Past students buried in textbooks, past Emily's favorite study spot, past years of trying to fit into their perfect academic world. I didn't stop until I reached Mrs. Collins' front porch. She opened the door before I could knock. Perfect timing, dear. Look what else I found. She handed me a leather-bound journal. Inside, my grandmother's handwriting filled pages with stories, sketches, and something else designs. Beautiful, intricate drawings of sustainable housing concepts, decades ahead of their time. She never published these, Mrs. Collins said softly. Your grandfather thought they'd damage his reputation in the physics department. Sound familiar? My hands trembled as I turned the pages. They're trying to send me away. To redirect me. Are they now? Mrs. Collins' eyes sparked with something fierce. Well, perhaps it's time for some redirection of our own. She disappeared into her house, returning with a laptop. Remember my grandson, Ethan? The environmental journalist? He's been looking for innovative sustainable design concepts for a feature piece. My grandmother's journals seem to burn in my hands. They want to bury me in some research program, make me disappear like they did to her. Or, Mrs. Collins smiled, you could make yourself impossible to ignore. My phone buzzed again, Emily. Where are you? Mom and Dad are acting weird. Did something happen? I ignored it, opening my grandmother's journal to a particularly stunning design. Mrs. Collins, does Ethan still want that interview? He's in town next week, actually, covering the university's sustainability initiative. She paused, watching me carefully. The same initiative Dr. Whitaker's been fighting against, if I recall correctly. Through her window, I could see my parents and Dr. Whitaker emerging from the library, heads bent in conversation. They looked like conspirators plotting a crime. In a way, they were. I think, I said slowly, it's time to show everyone what a Thompson woman can really do. Mrs. Collins squeezed my hand. Your grandmother would be proud. I opened my laptop. My grandmother's designs spread out before me. They wanted to redirect me? Fine. I'd redirect myself right into the spotlight they were so desperate to avoid. One more thing, Mrs. Collins added, her voice unusually serious. There's something about your grandmother's departure from the university that you should know. But before she could continue, Emily appeared at the fence between our houses. Riley, Mom and Dad want to talk to you. Something about your future. I met Mrs. Collins' eyes. We both knew what that conversation would entail. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of their plans for me. I had plans of my own. The eco-design firm's office felt like stepping into another world. No sterile lab coats or pretentious academic titles, just creative energy and the smell of recycled materials. I smoothed my shirt, clutching my portfolio filled with my grandmother's restored designs, updated for modern sustainability. These are remarkable, Sarah, the creative director, said, spreading the drawings across her reclaimed wood desk. The integration of solar technology with these vintage concepts, it's exactly what we're looking for. My phone buzzed, another missed call from Emily. I silenced it. When can you start?
Sarah asked.
Before I could answer, a familiar voice cut through the office. Riley. Ethan Brooks stood in the doorway, camera bag slung over his shoulder. Mrs. Collins' grandson, the environmental journalist. Of course he'd be here. You two know each other? Sarah asked. Not exactly, I managed, watching Ethan's eyes drift to my grandmother's designs. Wait, he said, moving closer. These look like... I've seen these before. In my grandmother's photos of... Your next article? I cut in, silently pleading with him to understand. About innovative sustainable design? He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly.
Right.
The article. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Mom. Dr. Whitaker has arranged an interview at the Neural Research Institute. Don't disappoint us again. When can you start? Sarah repeated. Tomorrow, I said firmly, ignoring the guilt churning in my stomach. Later, Ethan caught up with me in the parking lot. Those were your grandmother's designs, weren't they? The ones she never got to publish. I stopped walking. How much did Mrs. Collins tell you? Enough to know why you're here. He leaned against my car. but using her designs without credit. They drove her out of academia, I snapped. Made her bury her work because it didn't fit their precious scientific standards. Now they're trying to do the same to me. And your solution is to finish what she started. I pulled out the journal. Look at these notes. She wanted these designs used, wanted them to help people. The university buried them once. I won't let that happen again. Ethan was quiet for a moment. My article goes to print next week. If these designs are published under your name, then my family will finally see what they've been ignoring. I met his eyes. Unless you're planning to stop me? He handed back the journal. I'm planning to interview you about your innovative approach to sustainable design. Your grandmother's influence might come up naturally in the conversation. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He nodded toward the street, where Emily's car was pulling up. She got out, waving a familiar envelope. Riley, what is this? The Neural Institute called Mom about your missed interview. I'm not going, I said, instinctively stepping between her and my portfolio. This is your chance to fix things. Emily grabbed my arm. Dr. Whitaker pulled strings for you. No. He pulled strings to shut me up? I yanked away, just like they did to Dad's mother. Emily's face went blank. What are you talking about? Ask Dad about his mother's writing career. Ask him why all her designs were buried in university archives. I opened my car door. Better yet, ask Dr. Whitaker why he's so invested in controlling another generation of Thompson women. Riley, wait. But I was already driving away, leaving Emily standing next to Ethan in the parking lot. In my rearview mirror, I saw him hand her his business card. My phone lit up with a text from Sarah. Contract ready for tomorrow. Welcome to the team. I pulled over, hands shaking on the steering wheel. No turning back now. By this time next week, my family would either have to acknowledge my path or watch as I blazed it without them. Either way, I was done living in their shadow. The weekly Thompson family dinner felt like walking into an ambush. Mom had arranged the table with her best china, always a warning sign. Emily sat practically vibrating with excitement, while Dad kept checking his phone, a slight smile playing at his lips. I pushed my untouched food around the plate, waiting for whatever bomb they were about to drop. I have news, Emily announced, right on cue. The International Science Foundation selected my research proposal. Full funding, 3 years, with Dr. Whitaker as my mentor. Mom's eyes glistened. We're so proud, darling. Charles says this could lead to a permanent position at. I got a job too. I cut in, my voice steadier than I felt. Creative director at Ecovision Design. The silence that followed felt like a vacuum. Dad's fork clattered against his plate. That little sustainability startup? Mom's voice dripped with disdain. Riley, we've arranged everything with the Neural Institute. Dr. Whitaker has no right to arrange my life. I pulled out my grandmother's journal. Just like he had no right to bury these designs 30 years ago. Dad's face went pale. Where did you get that? Does it matter? What matters is that your mother's work is finally going to see the light of day. You can't, Emily whispered, realization dawning. Riley, those designs aren't yours to. They're exactly mine to use, I shot back. Someone in this family has to carry on her legacy. Mom stood, her chair scraping against the floor. This ends now. You will call the Neural Institute tomorrow and accept their offer. Or what? You'll bury me too. I opened the journal to a marked page. Did you know your precious Dr. Whitaker threatened to revoke Grandma's funding unless she stopped pursuing her frivolous creative endeavors? It's all right here in her notes. Dad reached for the journal. I yanked it away. I have copies, I said. And Ethan Brooks is running a story next week about innovative, sustainable design. Guess whose work will be featured? Ethan Brooks. Mom's voice sharpened. Charles mentioned him, that environmental journalist causing trouble for the university's development plans. The same plans that would destroy the wetlands Grandma tried to protect with these designs. I stood, my chair toppling backward. Funny how history repeats itself. Riley, Emily pleaded, think about what you're doing to the family. The family? I laughed. a harsh sound that surprised even me. You mean the family that's been suffocating me my entire life? The family that buried their own mother's dreams because they didn't fit the proper academic mold. That's enough. Dad slammed his hand on the table. You will not destroy everything we've built. The Neural Institute position starts Monday. Either you take it or you're no longer welcome in this house. The ultimatum hung in the air like poison gas. Emily's eyes darted between us, her perfect world cracking at the edges. Well, I said, my voice eerily calm, I guess that makes this easy. I walked to the door, grandmother's journal clutched to my chest. Behind me, chairs scraped as my family rose. Riley, please, Mom called out. Think about your future. I turned back one last time. I am. For the first time, I really am. Through the window, I could see Mrs. Collins on her porch, watching. She gave me a slight nod as I walked to my car. My phone buzzed. Ethan. Story's ready. Sure you want to do this? I looked back at my family's house, where Emily stood in the doorway, her fellowship letter forgotten in her hand. Through the window, I could see Mom on the phone, probably calling Dr. Whitaker. Dad just stood there, looking lost, like he was seeing a ghost of his own mother walking away again. I typed back. Run it. Sometimes burning bridges lights the way forward. I started my car, my grandmother's journal safe beside me, and drove toward whatever came next. Behind me, the perfect Thompson family facade began to crumble. 3 days after Ethan's article hit, I found Emily waiting outside my tiny studio apartment. She held a copy of the magazine, my grandmother's designs splashed across the pages under my name. You could have told me, she said quietly. About Grandma. About everything. I unlocked my door, letting her follow me inside. My walls were covered with new designs, my own this time, inspired by but not copying my grandmother's work. Would you have listened? I asked, dropping my keys on the counter. Or would you have run straight to Dr. Whitaker like always? Emily flinched. He's threatening to pull my fellowship. Of course he is. I laughed bitterly. Can't have another Thompson woman stepping out of line, can he? Riley, please. Emily's voice cracked. The university's board is investigating his past decisions. Dad's tenure review is next month. Mom's barely leaving the house. You've destroyed everything. I destroyed nothing. I turned to face her. They did this. All of it. Every time they buried someone's dreams for their precious reputation. Is that what this is about? Revenge. It's about truth. Justice. For Grandma, for me, for who? Emily stepped closer. Because right now, it looks like you're just burning everything down without caring who gets hurt. My phone buzzed. Ethan. Whitaker's lawyers demanding a retraction. Claims you stole intellectual property. My hands started shaking. He can't do that. Those designs were never published. But they were submitted to the university. Emily cut in. Under Grandma's name. Which means, technically, they own them. The realization hit like ice water. That's why he buried them in the first place. Riley. Emily reached for my hand. Come home. We can fix this. Dr. Whitaker said if you publicly apologize. I yanked away. So, that's why you're really here? To save the family name again. To save you. Emily's composure finally cracked. You think you're the only one who felt trapped? Who wanted something different? But I learned to work within the system, to change things gradually. You learned to comply. I spat. To be their perfect daughter while I got pushed aside. And look where your rebellion got you. She gestured around my small apartment. No family, no career prospects, and now potential legal trouble. Was it worth it? My phone buzzed again. Sarah from EcoVision. Need to talk about your position given recent developments. The walls seemed to close in. Everything I'd built, everything I'd fought for, crumbling because I'd underestimated the system I was fighting against. Get out, I whispered. Riley, get out. I grabbed the magazine, ripping it in half. Go back to your perfect life and your precious mentor. Tell them they win. Emily paused at the door. You know what's ironic? Your designs, your real ones, not Grandma's, they're brilliant. You could have succeeded on your own merit. Instead, you let revenge poison everything. She left, closing the door softly behind her. Through my window, I could see her wiping tears as she walked to her car. My phone buzzed one last time, Mrs. Collins. Come over, dear. There's something about your grandmother you need to know. Something I should have told you sooner. I slumped against the wall, surrounded by my torn dreams and shattered plans. The worst part wasn't losing everything, it was realizing Emily might be right. In trying to right past wrongs, I'd become exactly what I hated. Someone who destroyed others to get ahead. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the university buildings. Somewhere in those halls, Dr. Whitaker was probably celebrating his victory. My parents were likely planning damage control. And Emily was caught in the middle, just like I'd always been. Mrs. Collins texted again. It's about the real reason your grandmother left. And why Whitaker's so afraid of her designs being public. I stared at the message, too numb to respond. I'd wanted justice, but all I'd gotten was chaos. Now I had to decide, keep fighting a losing battle, or admit defeat and try to salvage what was left of my life. The torn magazine pages scattered across my floor like broken promises. Mrs. Collins' revelation about my grandmother still echoed in my head as I walked into EcoVision's launch event. The truth about Dr. Whitaker's past wasn't just ammunition, it was dynamite. Ready. Ethan squeezed my hand. Camera ready. The showroom gleamed with my designs, actual ones this time, inspired by, but distinct from my grandmother's work. He's here. Emily's text flashed on my phone. My sister had chosen her side, finally. Not the one anyone expected. Dr. Whitaker's voice cut through the crowd. Quite the achievement, taking credit for another's work. He stood by my centerpiece design, a sustainable housing model that could revolutionize low-income housing. Though I suppose intellectual theft runs in the family. The room quieted. Cameras turned our way. Funny you should mention theft, Charles. I stepped forward, grandmother's journal in hand. Let's talk about the real reason you buried her designs 30 years ago. His smile flickered. Those designs belonged to the university. Because you falsified the submission dates. Emily emerged from the crowd, holding a stack of documents. After she discovered your research fraud. Whitaker's face reddened. Dr. Thompson, control your daughters. They don't need controlling. Dad's voice surprised everyone. He stood near the entrance, looking smaller somehow, more human. They need to be heard. Finally, I opened the journal to its last entry. Grandma found evidence that you falsified environmental impact data for the university's expansion projects. The same projects her sustainable designs would have made unnecessary. Ridiculous, Whitaker sputtered. Margaret, Harold, are you going to allow this spectacle? Mom stepped forward, but her usual authority was gone. Did you really think we wouldn't find out? That Riley's investigation wouldn't uncover everything. Investigation. His eyes darted between us. Why do you think I published those designs? I moved closer. We needed you to react exactly as you did, with legal threats that would force the university board to review all related documents. Emily held up her phone. Including your buried reports from 1992. The ones Grandma was about to expose before you forced her out. The crowd murmured. Cameras flashed. Whitaker's facade cracked. You have no proof. Actually, Ethan stepped forward. We have your own words. Every threatening letter you sent her, every falsified report. Riley's article wasn't just about the designs, it was bait. And you bit, I finished. Just like you did with Grandma. Only this time, there's nowhere to bury the truth. Whitaker lunged for the journal. I stepped back, but he grabbed my arm. You ungrateful little. Dad moved faster than I'd ever seen him. Take your hands off my daughter. Security approached as Whitaker's grip loosened. His carefully constructed world crumbled around him. The board will have your complete investigation report tomorrow, Emily said. Along with my resignation from the fellowship. I'm pursuing independent research, focusing on sustainable technology. I stared at my sister, seeing her clearly for the first time in years. Riley, Mom stepped forward, her voice breaking. Your designs, your real ones, They're extraordinary. We should have seen it sooner. The security team escorted a protesting Whitaker out. Cameras followed, capturing his disgrace.
I turned to my family.
This was never about revenge. It was about truth, about making things right. No, Dad said quietly. It was about being heard, something we forgot to do a long time ago. The crowd dispersed, leaving us in a room full of possibilities. My designs, Emily's new path, our family's chance at healing. Mrs. Collins appeared at my side. Your grandmother would be proud. Not because you exposed him, but because you did it your way, with creativity and purpose. I looked around at my work, at the family I thought I'd lost, at the future I'd fought to create. Think it's too late to add her name to these designs? Not as the creator, but as the inspiration. Emily smiled. It's never too late to tell the truth. Outside, reporters gathered, hungry for the story. But the real story wasn't in the scandal or the revenge. It was in the healing that came after, in the bridges rebuilt from the ashes of what we'd burned down. 6 months after Whitaker's downfall, I stood in my grandmother's restored study, running my fingers along the spines of her newly uncovered journals. The university's investigation had revealed more than justice fraud. It had unearthed an entire archive of her work, hidden away in storage for decades. Found something interesting? Emily asked, carrying in another box of recovered papers. Everything she created is interesting. I opened a journal, smiling at the familiar sketches. Hard to believe they kept all this buried for so long. Speaking of buried, Emily pulled out an envelope. Dad found this in Whitaker's office during the clean-out. It's addressed to you. The letter was dated the day before our grandmother died. My hands trembled as I opened it. What does it say? Emily asked. I read aloud. My dearest Riley, by now you'll have discovered the truth about your gift. It's not just creativity, it's vision. The ability to see beyond what is to what could be. They'll try to bury it, just as they did mine. Don't let them. But remember, revenge destroys, while creation builds. Pose wiseli. Love, Grandma. The sound of cars pulling up outside drew us to the window. Mom and Dad were arriving for the dedication ceremony, the university's new sustainable design center, built using my grandmother's original concepts and my modern adaptations. Ready. Ethan appeared in the doorway, camera in hand as always. They're waiting for the keynote speaker. I tucked the letter into my jacket pocket. Almost. Mrs. Collins joined us, looking frail but determined. Your grandmother gave me something to hold on to years ago. Said I'd know when it was time.
She handed me a small key.
The bottom drawer of her desk. She always said the best revenge is living well. The drawer contained a single notebook, its pages filled with designs far ahead of their time. But it was the dedication that caught my eye. To my granddaughters, one who will break the mold, and one who will rebuild it. Together. Emily read over my shoulder, her breath catching. She knew. Somehow she knew we'd end up here. Different paths, same destination. I said, thinking of our journey. Emily's research now focused on implementing sustainable technology, while my designs made it accessible to everyone. Outside, the ceremony crowd grew. Mom was greeting guests, her pride no longer wrapped in academic prestige, but in genuine accomplishment. Dad stood examining the building's solar features, finally seeing the beauty and innovation that crossed boundaries. You never did tell me, Emily said quietly. When did you figure out Whitaker's whole scheme? I didn't. I smiled at Mrs. Collins.
She did.
Turns out Grandma told her everything before she died. We just needed the right moment and the right bait to expose it. And now? Ethan asked, lowering his camera. I looked around the study, at the family we'd rebuilt from the ashes of secrets and silence, at the legacy we'd uncovered and the future we were creating. Now we build something new. I pulled out my latest designs, a community center that combined Emily's research with my sustainable concepts. Together this time. The ceremony began outside, but we lingered a moment longer in the study. Emily picked up one of Grandma's journals, then handed me her fellowship resignation letter, still unopened. Want to do the honors? She asked. I tore it in half, letting the pieces fall like confetti. To new beginnings. Mrs. Collins smiled knowingly. Your grandmother always said the best stories don't end. They transform. We walked out together into the bright afternoon sun, where the crowd waited for a speech about innovation and sustainability. But they'd get something more, a story about family, about healing, about finding strength in our differences. I felt Grandma's letter against my heart as I took the podium. Behind me stood the future she'd imagined, and we'd finally brought to life. Not through revenge or destruction, but through creation and truth. Sometimes the best way to honor the past isn't to avenge it, but to build something better from its foundations.
I never thought my mother's old art supplies would change everything. But there I was choking on dust in our cramped attic when I found the box that would tear my family apart. My name's Harper, and until that moment, I was just another disappointed daughter trying to live up to impossible expectations. You know the type, straight A's aren't good enough, extracurriculars aren't impressive enough, and God forbid you have dreams of your own. I was supposed to be looking for my sister Claire's old calculus textbooks. Instead, I found myself staring at a battered cardboard box labeled Margaret's Art. Do not throw away in my grandmother's messy handwriting. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside, dozens of sketches and paintings lay carefully preserved between sheets of tissue paper. They were incredible portraits capturing raw emotion, landscapes bursting with color, abstract pieces that made my heart ache. And they were all signed by my mother. What are you doing up there? Mom's voice floated up from below, making me jump. Just looking for Claire's books. I called back, quickly gathering some of the artwork. I'll be down in a minute. Well, hurry up. Your father will be home soon, and you know how he feels about tardiness at dinner. Did I ever? Dad's rules were carved in stone. Dinner at 6 sharp, phones off the table, and everyone better have something impressive to report about their day. Usually, that meant Claire talking about her latest academic achievement, while I tried to shrink into my chair. I tucked 3 of Mom's paintings into my sweater and carefully replaced the box. My mind was spinning. In 18 years, I'd never seen Mom pick up a paintbrush. She was always just Mom, the one who kept our schedule running like clockwork, who nodded along with Dad's lectures about practical career choices, who gently suggested I focus more on my business classes than my art electives. At dinner that night, I couldn't stop stealing glances at her. Dad was in rare form, practically glowing as he announced Claire's acceptance into some prestigious Master of Business Administration program. Following in your old man's footsteps, he beamed, raising his glass. This is what happens when you apply yourself to something worthwhile. I pushed my food around my plate, feeling the weight of Mom's artwork against my ribs where I'd hidden it under my clothes. Mom, I didn't know you used to paint, I blurted out. The clinking of silverware stopped. Mom's face went pale, and Dad's expression hardened slightly. That was a long time ago, she said quietly. But these paintings I found. Harper. Dad's voice cut through the air like a knife. Your mother made the right choice to focus on more important things. Just like you need to focus on bringing up that economics grade. I looked at Mom hoping for something. Support? Recognition? But she just smiled that same tight smile she always wore during these conversations and asked Claire about her housing plans for graduate school. Later that night, I spread Mom's paintings across my bed. There was so much life in them, so much passion. What had happened to that version of my mother? And more importantly, was I staring at my own future? My phone buzzed. A text from my grandmother, Evelyn. Coming to visit next week. Have something important to discuss about your Uncle Nathaniel. Don't tell your father. I glanced at Mom's signature on one of the paintings, then at the acceptance letter from the art school I'd hidden in my desk drawer. Something was shifting in our perfectly ordered world, and I wasn't sure if I was more excited or terrified. One thing was certain, I couldn't let my art die in a box in the attic. Not like Mom did. Even if it meant going to war with my own family. I waited until Dad left for work the next morning before cornering Mom in the kitchen. The paintings I'd found were spread across the counter between us like evidence at a crime scene. She stared at them, hands wrapped around her coffee mug so tight I thought it might shatter. They're beautiful, I said softly. Why did you stop? Mom traced a finger along the edge of one painting. A vibrant street scene with people caught mid-motion, their faces full of life. Sometimes we make choices, Harper. Adult choices. That's not an answer. No. She looked up and for a second I saw something fierce in her eyes. What about your choice to hide your art school acceptance letter? I stumbled back, my heart pounding. How did you? I was putting away your laundry last week. She took a sip of coffee, her hands steadier now. Don't worry, your father doesn't know. Before I could respond, Claire walked in, already dressed for her internship interview. She stopped short when she saw the paintings. Holy shit, Mom. These are incredible. Language, Mom said automatically, but there was no force behind it. Claire picked up one of the portraits, a young woman with wild hair and defiant eyes. Is this Grandma Evelyn? Mom nodded. From before she married your grandfather. Back when she was still performing in that folk band of hers. Wait, what? I leaned closer to the painting. Grandma was in a band? There's a lot you don't know about this family, Mom said, and something in her tone made me look up. She was staring at her phone, her face suddenly tight. Speaking of which, your Uncle Nathaniel is coming to dinner tonight. Claire and I exchanged glances. Uncle Nathaniel rarely came to family dinners, and when he did, Dad always ended up in his home office afterward, making angry phone calls about stock prices and market shares. Does Dad know? Claire asked. He will. Mom started gathering up the paintings with quick, efficient movements. Harper, help me put these away before he gets home. But Mom. Now Harper. That evening I sat at our formal dining table, watching Uncle Nathaniel cut into his steak with surgical precision. He'd always reminded me of a shark. All smooth movements and calculated smiles. So Claire, he said, I hear you're following the family tradition. Master of Business Administration at Harrison Business School. Yes, Uncle. Claire's voice was perfect, polite, engaged, everything Dad wanted. But under the table, her leg was bouncing nervously against mine. Excellent choice. Though I suppose Thomas wouldn't have it any other way. Nathaniel's eyes slid to me. And what about you, Harper? Still dabbling in. What was it? Art. Dad's fork scraped against his plate. Harper's focusing on her core subjects now. Aren't you, sweetheart? I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, Mom cut in. Actually, Harper's quite talented. She reminds me of myself at that age. The silence that followed was deafening. Dad stared at Mom like she'd started speaking in tongues. Uncle Nathaniel's smile widened slightly. Ah yes, the artist gene. It runs in our side of the family, doesn't it, Margaret? Though some of us learn to put aside childish things. Is that what you did, Nathaniel? Mom's voice was quiet but sharp. Put aside childish things? Like ethics? Business integrity? Margaret. Dad's warning tone filled the room. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another text from Grandma Evelyn. Don't trust anything your uncle says about the company. Keep your eyes open. I looked up to find Uncle Nathaniel watching me. His expression unreadable. You know, Harper, he said. There are many ways to pursue art. The corporate world can be quite creative. Perhaps you'd like to intern at my company this summer? See how the other side lives. Dad's knuckles went white around his wine glass. Claire kicked me under the table. Thank you, I said carefully. But I have other plans. Do you? Uncle Nathaniel's smile never wavered. Well, plans can change. Just ask your mother. Mom stood up so suddenly her chair nearly fell. I think it's time for dessert. As she fled to the kitchen, I caught a glimpse of her face. She wasn't just angry, she was scared. And suddenly, I understood that my discovery in the attic had uncovered more than just old paintings. It had cracked open something dark and dangerous, something that had been simmering in my family for years. And now I had to choose. Keep digging or bury it all back in the attic where it belonged. Grandma Evelyn arrived like a storm front, sweeping into our house with her usual mix of flowing scarves and unsolicited opinions. I found her in the kitchen that morning, making coffee with Mom and speaking in the kind of hushed tones that always meant trouble. Your brother is planning something, Margaret, Grandma said, not noticing me in the doorway. The board meetings, the private investors, it's all connected. Mom's face went pale. Evelyn, please. Not now. Yes, now. Grandma turned and spotted me. Harper, perfect timing. Come sit with us. I slid into a chair, watching Mom's hands shake as she poured more coffee. Is this about Uncle Nathaniel? It's about everything, Grandma said. Your uncle's been systematically buying up shares in your father's company through shell corporations. He's planning a hostile takeover. Mom! Mom slammed the coffee pot down. She's 18. She doesn't need to be involved in this. She's already involved. We all are. Grandma pulled out her phone, showing us a series of emails. Nathaniel's been using information from your old art circle, Margaret. Those gallery owners you used to know? He's been gathering dirt on Thomas through them for years. My stomach lurched. What kind of dirt? The kind that could destroy your father's reputation. And your mother's. Before anyone could explain further, Claire burst through the door, her face flushed with excitement. Harper, I just got the most amazing news. I was talking to my academic advisor about your portfolio, and she thinks. She stopped short, finally reading the room. Mom's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. What portfolio? Mom asked. Claire's eyes went wide. Oh God, Harper, I'm so sorry. I thought they knew about the art school acceptance. The silence that followed was like a vacuum, sucking all the air from the room. Then Dad's voice came from behind me, quiet and deadly. What art school acceptance? I turned slowly. He stood in the doorway, still in his running clothes from his morning jog. His face was unreadable. Thomas, Mom started, but he held up a hand. Harper. Explain. My voice came out surprisingly steady. I applied to the Rhode Island School of Design. I got in. Full scholarship. I see. He stepped into the kitchen, his running shoes squeaking against the tile. And when were you planning to tell me that you've been wasting time on applications instead of focusing on your economics grade? Thomas, Grandma cut in. This isn't the time. Stay out of this, Evelyn. This is between me and my daughter. He turned back to me. Well, something snapped inside me. Maybe it was the emails on Grandma's phone or Mom's trembling hands, or the way Claire looked like she wanted to disappear. I wasn't going to tell you, I said, because you never listen. You didn't listen when Mom wanted to keep painting, and you're not listening now when your own brother-in-law is trying to destroy you. Dad's face went from red to white. What are you talking about? Nathaniel, Grandma said, standing up. He's making his move, Thomas, and he's using Margaret's past to do it. Dad looked at Mom. Really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. Margaret. I'm sorry, Mom whispered. The people I used to know from my art days. I never thought Nathaniel would. Would what? Dad's voice was dangerous now. Would use your old connections to spy on me? Would manipulate my family? Would try to take everything I've built. Everything you've built? I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward. What about what Mom gave up? What about what you're making Claire give up? What about? Enough. Dad slammed his hand on the counter. You will withdraw your art school acceptance immediately. I won't have another dreamer in this family throwing away their future on pretty pictures. Thomas. Mom's voice cracked like a whip. We all turned to stare at her. She was standing now too, her hands steady for the first time all morning. That's enough. But it was too late. I was already moving, grabbing my keys and phone. Claire called after me, but I didn't stop. I could hear Dad and Grandma arguing, Mom's voice rising above them both, but it all faded as I ran to my car. I had one last glimpse of them through the kitchen window, my perfect broken family, finally showing its true colors. Then I turned the key in the ignition and drove away, leaving everything I thought I knew behind me. I ended up at the old art supply store downtown, the one place I could always think clearly. The bell chimed as I pushed through the door, and the familiar smell of paint and canvas wrapped around me like a blanket. My phone buzzed again, the 20th call from Claire in the last hour, but I ignored it. You look like you've seen a ghost, said Marcus, the elderly owner who'd been supplying me with contraband art supplies for years. He was arranging brushes in the front display, his arthritis-curved fingers moving with surprising grace. Just family stuff, I muttered, heading for my usual spot in the sketch corner. Family stuff that has Thomas Winslow's daughter hiding in my shop at 10 in the morning? Before I could answer, the bell chimed again. Uncle Nathaniel walked in, looking completely out of place in his tailored suit. Harper, he said smoothly, your father's worried sick. I'm sure he is. I gripped my sketchbook tighter. How did you find me? Claire mentioned this was your sanctuary. He picked up a charcoal pencil, turning it in his hands. You know, your mother used to come here too. Before she married your father. Marcus shuffled closer, his usual friendly demeanor replaced by something harder. Can I help you find something, sir? No need. Uncle Nathaniel set down the pencil. I'm here to help my niece understand her options. I understand my options just fine, I said, but my voice shook. Do you? He pulled out his phone, showing me a series of documents. Your father's company is built on sand, Harper. One push and it all comes down. Unless what? Unless someone convinces the board that new leadership is needed. Someone young, someone with artistic sensibilities. Someone who could bridge the gap between business and culture. I stared at him. You want me to help you take over Dad's company? I want to give you everything you've ever wanted. Art school, galleries, complete creative freedom. All you have to do is tell the board about your father's questionable business practices. What questionable practices? His smile turned sharp. The ones we'll create evidence for. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Grandma Evelyn. Don't trust him. Coming to get you. Stay put. Think about it, Uncle Nathaniel continued. Your father would rather destroy your dreams than support them. Why protect him? Marcus cleared his throat. I think you should leave, sir. Of course. Uncle Nathaniel straightened his tie. But Harper, remember, your father gave your mother the same choice once. Art or family. Look how that turned out. After he left, I sat there shaking until Grandma arrived. She took one look at me and pulled me into a fierce hug. He offered you a deal, didn't he? I nodded against her shoulder. How did you know? Because he made the same offer to your mother 20 years ago. That's why she stopped painting. Grandma pulled back, her eyes fierce. He threatened to expose some of Thomas's early business dealings if she didn't give up her art career. She chose to protect your father, and Nathaniel's been bitter about it ever since. But why? Why does he care so much about destroying Dad? Because your father chose Margaret over him. They were business partners first before Thomas met your mother. Nathaniel never forgave either of them for falling in love. My phone lit up with a text from Claire. Dad's drinking. Mom's crying. Please come home. I can't go back, I whispered. Not after everything that's happened. Grandma squeezed my hand. Then don't. Come stay with me. We'll figure this out together. But Dad, your father needs to learn that control isn't love. She picked up my sketchbook. And you need to learn that choosing yourself isn't betrayal. I looked around the art store, at the supplies that had been my refuge for so long. Uncle Nathaniel's offer hung in the air like smoke, tempting and toxic. I could destroy my father's company, get everything I wanted, and make him feel as helpless as he'd made me feel. Or I could find another way. Okay, I said finally. I'll come with you. But first I need to make a stop. Where? I picked up my phone, typing out a message to Claire. Meet me at Mom's old gallery. Bring her paintings. All of them. It's time to fight back. The old gallery looked exactly like Mom's paintings, faded glory wrapped in dust and regret. Claire was already waiting outside, clutching the box of artwork to her chest like a shield. Dad's furious, she said as I approached. He's talking about cutting you off completely. Let him. I pulled out the gallery keys Grandma had given me. Did anyone follow you? No, but Uncle Nathaniel called. He knows what we're doing. The lock clicked open, releasing a wave of musty air. Inside, empty walls stretched into shadows, picture hooks waiting like tiny accusations. I flipped on the lights, revealing the ghost of what used to be Mom's artistic home. Help me hang these, I said, pulling out the first painting. Claire hesitated. Harper, maybe we should think about this. Uncle Nathaniel said. Uncle Nathaniel is trying to destroy our family. Is he? Claire set down the box. Or is Dad doing that all by himself? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Where are you? Your father's meeting with the board tomorrow. Nathaniel's making his move. Perfect timing, I muttered, starting to hang the paintings. What are you planning? Claire asked, finally helping me. A wake-up call. Dad needs to see what his precious control has cost this family. I stepped back, studying the arrangement. Did you bring the photos? Claire pulled out an envelope. Inside were pictures of Mom from her gallery days, young, vibrant, surrounded by admirers at her shows. The same fire I'd seen in her paintings burned in her eyes. She was amazing, Claire whispered. She still is. She just forgot. The gallery door chimed. We both spun around to find Uncle Nathaniel standing there, looking pleased. Now this is interesting, he said, walking in slowly. A tribute to Margaret's lost dreams? How poetic. Get out, I snapped. I'm trying to help you, Harper. Both of you. He turned to Claire. Did you know your father's company is built on stolen ideas? Ideas he took from me while dating your mother. Claire's face went pale. That's not true. No. He pulled out his phone. I have proof. Documents, emails, witnesses. Tomorrow it all comes out at the board meeting. Unless what? I demanded. Unless you both help me take control. Claire's business acumen, your artistic vision, we could rebuild something better. Something honest. There's nothing honest about blackmail. Grandma's voice cut through the gallery. She stood in the doorway, looking fiercer than her age should allow. Hello, Mother, Uncle Nathaniel said coldly. Still fighting other people's battles? Still trying to own what isn't yours? She walked in, standing between us. You never could accept that Margaret chose Thomas over you. Claire gasped softly beside me. The pieces suddenly clicked. Uncle Nathaniel's bitterness, his obsession with destroying Dad's company, the way he always watched Mom at family gatherings. You were in love with her, I said. His smile turned ugly. I was her partner. In art, in business, in everything. Then your father swept in with his big plans and corporate dreams. And Mom chose him, Claire finished. She chose wrong. He gestured at the paintings. Look at what she gave up. Look at what your father took from her. My phone buzzed again, Dad, this time. Come home, please. We need to talk. I looked at the paintings on the wall, at Mom's captured dreams and lost possibilities. Then at Claire, who seemed torn between her Master of Business Administration future and this new understanding of our family's past. At Grandma, standing strong against her own son's bitterness. At Uncle Nathaniel, whose revenge had poisoned 2 decades of family history. You're right, I said finally. Mom gave up too much. But that's not Dad's fault. It's yours. Excuse me. You made her choose. Art or family. Just like you're making us choose now. I picked up my phone. But we're not, Mom. And I'm done letting men decide what I can create. I hit dial on Dad's number, watching Uncle Nathaniel's face darken. What are you doing? Fighting back, I said as the phone rang. But not your way. Claire stepped up beside me, her hand finding mine. Together we watched our uncle realize he'd just lost his last chance at revenge. And somehow, standing in Mom's old gallery surrounded by her art, that felt like the first real victory we'd had in years. The board meeting looked like a funeral, and maybe it was. I stood at the back of the conference room, watching Dad face the people who could destroy everything he'd built. Mom sat rigid beside him, her hands clasped so tight her knuckles were white. Claire squeezed my arm as Uncle Nathaniel took the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, he began. I've called this emergency meeting to discuss some disturbing information about Thomas Winslow's business practices. Dad's face remained stone still, but I saw his finger tap against the table. His one tell when he was scared. The board members leaned forward, vultures scenting blood. Before you continue, Nathaniel, I stepped forward, my heart hammering. I have something to show everyone. Uncle Nathaniel's smile flickered. This is hardly the time for amateur art presentations, Harper. But I was already connecting my laptop to the projector. The first image filled the screen, Mom's painting of Dad from 20 years ago, young and determined in his first office. Then another. Dad helping Mom set up her gallery opening. Another. Both of them reviewing business plans at our kitchen table. My mother documented everything, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Every meeting, every idea, every collaboration. She didn't just give up art for the company. She used it to tell the truth. The board members murmured, studying the images. Uncle Nathaniel's face darkened. These prove nothing, he snapped. Actually, Claire stood, pulling out a USB drive. They prove everything. I've spent the last week going through Mom's old gallery records. The dates, the meetings, the witnesses, they all match Dad's version of events, not yours. Uncle Nathaniel lunged for the drive, but Grandma was faster. She snatched it and handed it to the board chairman. My son, she said clearly, has been lying to you all for 20 years. The room erupted in chaos. Security appeared to escort Uncle Nathaniel out as he shouted threats and accusations. The board members huddled over laptops, reviewing evidence. Through it all, Dad sat motionless, staring at Mom's paintings on the screen. I thought we'd won. I really did. Then Uncle Nathaniel broke free from security. You want truth? He snarled, pulling out his phone. Here's truth. He pressed play on a video. Mom in her old gallery, young and passionate, telling someone off camera that she was choosing art over business, that she couldn't marry Thomas Winslow, that she wouldn't give up her dreams. The date stamp showed it was filmed the day before their wedding. The room went silent. Dad turned to Mom, his face unreadable. Margaret. It was a moment of doubt, she whispered. Just a moment. Nathaniel filmed it without my knowledge. You told me you chose us. That you wanted this life. I did choose you. I choose you every day. Uncle Nathaniel's laugh was ugly. She chose safety, security, just like Harper's choosing now. Pretending her little art dreams don't matter more than family loyalty. That's not. I started, but Dad cut me off. All these years, he said quietly, I thought I was protecting you, both of you, from struggling, from failing. But I was just afraid. Afraid you'd realize you made the wrong choice, Margaret. Afraid you'd leave Harper. Afraid I'd lose everything I loved, because I couldn't understand what really mattered. He stood up, straightening his tie. The board can review all the evidence. They'll find that every business decision was legal and documented. But they'll also find that I failed at something more important, seeing the art in the people I love. Uncle Nathaniel sneered. How touching. But sentiment doesn't change facts. Your company, my company, Dad interrupted, is built on partnership. With Margaret, with my daughters, even with you once. I forgot that somewhere along the way. He turned to me. Harper, I'm sorry. For everything. But especially for not seeing that your art isn't a betrayal of our family. It's the heart of it. For a moment hope flared. Then Uncle Nathaniel played his final card. Too late for apologies, Thomas. The press already has everything, the video, the accusations, the family drama. By morning, your reputation will be destroyed. Your precious legacy? Gone. And this time, no amount of pretty pictures can save you. He was right. I could see it in Dad's face, in Mom's tears, in Claire's desperate grip on my arm. We'd won the battle but lost the war. Our family's name, Dad's company, Mom's sacrifice. It would all be tabloid fodder by sunrise. Unless I found a way to turn art into armor one last time. I found Uncle Nathaniel in Mom's old gallery, exactly where I knew he'd be. He stood surrounded by her paintings, phone in hand, probably crafting the press release that would destroy our family. You really think art is weakness, don't you? I said, making him jump. Harper. He recovered quickly, smiling that shark smile. Come to beg for mercy? No. I walked to the center of the gallery, where I'd set up my easel earlier. I came to paint. He laughed. Now? Your family's about to lose everything, and you want to doodle. I picked up my brush. Mom didn't choose Dad over art. She chose to tell stories a different way. Through documents, through records, through truth. That's what these paintings really show. Truth. He spat the word. The truth is your father stole everything from me. My ideas, my partner, your sister. I started sketching quick angry strokes. Mom wasn't your property. Neither was the company. Neither am I. His phone buzzed. Too late anyway. The press release goes live in 10 minutes. By morning, everyone will know about Thomas Winslow's fraudulent empire and his family's desperate cover-up. They'll know something better. Claire's voice came from the doorway. She stood with her laptop open, live streaming everything. They'll know how far a bitter man will go to destroy what he couldn't control. Uncle Nathaniel lunged for her, but Mom stepped in front of her, holding up her old camera. I recorded everything, Nathaniel. Every threat. Every manipulation. Every lie you told about Thomas. Her voice shook, but her hands were steady. I never stopped being an artist. I just learned to capture different kinds of truth. No one will believe you, he snarled, but his eyes darted between the cameras and my canvas. They'll believe this. I turned my easel around. The painting was rough but powerful. Uncle Nathaniel standing among Mom's art, his phone raised like a weapon, surrounded by the ghosts of his own choices. In the background, barely visible, was a younger version of him watching Mom and Dad fall in love. You think a painting will save you? He laughed, but it sounded hollow. No, Dad said, stepping into the gallery. The truth will save us. All of it. Even the parts that hurt. He walked to Mom's old wedding portrait, the one she'd painted the day after Uncle Nathaniel filmed her moment of doubt. I was scared too, Dad said quietly. Scared I wasn't good enough for her. Scared she'd regret choosing me over art. But I was wrong, she never chose one over the other. She found a way to be both. Just like Harper has. How touching, Uncle Nathaniel sneered, raising his phone. But in 1 minute, none of this will matter. Actually, Claire turned her laptop around, showing the company's website. It already does. Our live stream has gone viral. Your emails are public. Your fake evidence is exposed. And Harper's painting? It's trending. Uncle Nathaniel's phone clattered to the floor. He stared at the growing view count, at the comments flooding in, at his carefully constructed revenge crumbling in real time. You can't, he whispered. I won't let you. Let go, Nathaniel, Grandma said from the doorway. Before you lose the only thing you have left, your family. He looked around the gallery, at Mom's art telling our family's story, at Claire's technology spreading the truth, at my painting capturing his pain and betrayal. 20 years of bitterness reflected back at him from every angle. His shoulders sagged. I loved her, he said finally, looking at Mom. Both of them. The company. The dream. Everything. I know, Mom said softly. But love isn't ownership. It's creation. She picked up a brush and handed it to him. For a moment he stood frozen. Then slowly he set down his phone and took the brush. The press release? Claire asked. Delete it, he said quietly. All of it. As Claire's fingers flew over her keyboard, I added the final stroke to my painting. A small light breaking through the darkness around Uncle Nathaniel's figure. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of understanding. Sometimes the greatest art comes from the deepest wounds, and sometimes healing starts with a single brush stroke. 6 months later, I stood in the transformed gallery space, watching Dad adjust Mom's newest painting on the wall. The place had changed. No more dust, no more ghosts. Now it was filled with light and life, a perfect blend of Mom's classic pieces and my contemporary work. A little to the left, Claire called from her desk, not looking up from her laptop. She'd turned the gallery's back office into her startup headquarters, claiming she could manage both her Master of Business Administration and a digital art platform. Somehow she was making it work. Perfect, Mom said, stepping back to admire the hanging. She had paint on her cheek, just like when I was little. These days she usually did. The door chimed and Uncle Nathaniel walked in. He looked different, less sharp edges, more human. The court-mandated therapy was probably helping. The renovation looks good, he said quietly, hands in his pockets. Dad tensed slightly but nodded. They weren't friends, probably never would be. But they'd found a way to coexist, mostly through Mom's persistence and Grandma's stern supervision. Harper's piece is the centerpiece, Mom told him, pointing to my latest work, a massive canvas showing our family through different lenses, business meetings morphing into art galleries, spreadsheets flowing into paint strokes, all of us connected by lines of light and shadow. It's honest, Uncle Nathaniel said, studying it. That's important. Speaking of honest, Claire piped up. Your company's new art initiative is trending. People love the idea of combining tech and traditional art. He almost smiled. Turns out there's more than one way to build something worthwhile. The gallery door chimed again. A group of art students filed in, my classmates from RISD, here for our collaborative show. Dad watched them set up their pieces, his expression thoughtful. You were right, he said suddenly, turning to me. About everything. Art isn't just pretty pictures. Truth. Connection. Even business. Does this mean you're finally letting me paint your office mural? He laughed, a real laugh, not the type business chuckle I grew up with. One step at a time. Mom slipped her hand into his, leaving a smudge of paint on his expensive suit. He didn't seem to mind. Grandma appeared with her signature terrible timing, carrying a dusty box. Look what I found in my attic. Inside were Dad's old sketches, rough drawings of product designs, company logos, dreams scribbled in margins. Art in its own way. I was afraid, he admitted, touching one of the sketches. Afraid of anything that couldn't be controlled or measured. Afraid of ending up like. He glanced at Uncle Nathaniel, who was helping a student adjust their lighting. Fear makes us forget who we are, Mom said softly. But art helps us remember. Claire closed her laptop. Speaking of remembering, Harper's acceptance letter came. My heart stopped. The graduate program in Paris, the one combining business and fine arts, the one I'd applied to without telling anyone. Dad picked up the envelope. For a moment I saw the old him surface, the one who demanded perfect grades and practical choices. Then he handed it to me. Whatever it says, he said, we're proud of you. I opened it slowly, feeling the weight of everything that had brought us here. Mom's hidden paintings, Claire's secret support, Grandma's fierce love, even Uncle Nathaniel's bitter lessons about the price of control. I got in. The gallery erupted in congratulations, but I watched Dad's face. He smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. Paris, he said. Your mother always wanted to paint there. Mom squeezed his hand. Maybe I still will. I looked around the gallery, at my family finding new ways to blend art and business, truth and dreams, past and future. At Uncle Nathaniel, slowly learning to create instead of control. At Claire, building bridges between different worlds. The light through the windows caught my latest painting, highlighting the connections between us all. Some were strong, some still healing, some permanently changed. But together they made something beautiful. Something true. Something worth fighting for.
The voicemail sits in my phone like a ticking bomb. 3 days now, and I still haven't played it. Father's name glows on the screen, a name I haven't seen flash there in 2 years. Hey friends. Another tale awaits us today. I'm always curious about my listeners. Which corner of the world are you watching from? Share below. And if you enjoy these stories, becoming part of our family is just one subscribe away. Let's dive in. I'm Valentina, and this moment feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. The cursor hovers over the play button while my other hand clutches a glass of Cabernet, already half empty. My apartment feels too quiet, too still, as if the world is holding its breath. Just delete it, Lucas says from the kitchen, his voice gentle but firm. He knows the history, knows how each interaction with my father leaves fresh scars. You don't owe him anything. I know. But my finger betrays me, pressing play before I can stop myself. Val. Father's voice trembles through the speaker. I know I have no right to ask, but things aren't what they seem. Elaine, God, I've been such a fool. Please call me back. Please. The glass nearly slips from my hand. 2 years of silence, and now this? A desperate plea wrapped in cryptic warnings about his precious wife, the woman who systematically destroyed our family, while wearing a smile like poisoned honey. What did he say? Lucas appears beside me, dish towel still in hand. Nothing. Everything. I don't know. The wine burns going down. He's finally figured out what Elaine really is. Only took him 8 years. My phone buzzes again, Grandmother Maggie's name flashing this time. My stomach drops. She never calls this late unless something's wrong. Valentina, you need to come home, she says without preamble. Your father. There's something wrong. Really wrong. Elaine's been moving money around, selling things behind his back. He's not himself. When has he ever been himself since she showed up? The words come out sharp enough to cut. This is different. Maggie's voice hardens. I found documents in her study. Things about your mother's accident that don't add up. Val, I think. The line goes dead. I stare at the phone, my heart hammering against my ribs. Lucas touches my shoulder, but I barely feel it. All I can see is my mother's face, frozen in that last photograph before the car accident. Before Elaine swooped in to help father through his grief. I have to go back, I whisper, the words tasting like ash. I'll come with you. No. I stand, already moving toward the bedroom. I need to do this alone. Whatever's waiting there. It's between me and them. My hands shake as I pull out my overnight bag. 8 years of watching Elaine systematically isolate my father, of enduring her subtle jabs and manufactured dramas. 8 years of watching her transform my vibrant, loving father into a hollow-eyed stranger who chose her lies over his own daughter. My phone buzzes one more time, a text from an unknown number. If you're coming home, be careful. Elaine knows people are asking questions. She's dangerous when cornered. Oliver Reed. I haven't heard from him since high school, before he became a private investigator. Before everything fell apart. I pack quickly, mechanically, while Lucas watches from the doorway. He knows better than to argue. The rage I've suppressed for years burns hot and clean now, focusing my thoughts to a sharp point. What are you going to do? He asks finally. I zip the bag closed, meeting his eyes in the mirror. Whatever it takes to get my father back. And if Elaine really had something to do with my mother's death. I let the sentence hang unfinished. Some promises don't need to be spoken aloud. Some vengeance writes itself in blood. The iron gates of my childhood home loom before me, their familiar scrollwork now seeming more like prison bars than decoration. Father's Mercedes isn't in the circular driveway, just Elaine's gleaming white Lexus, pristine as ever. Like her, it's all surface shine and calculated presence. I park behind it, deliberately close. Let her worry about door dings. The front door opens before I reach it. Elaine stands there in her signature pearl gray dress, not a hair out of place. Valentina, darling. What an unexpected pleasure. Her voice drips artificial sweetness, but her eyes are sharp as razors. She doesn't move from the doorway. Where's my father? I keep my tone flat, professional. The kind I use with difficult clients. Thomas is resting. He's been under the weather. She steps aside, finally, her designer heels clicking against the marble foyer. I'm sure whatever brought you here can wait until. Val. Father's voice drifts down from upstairs, weak but urgent. Is that you? I brush past Elaine, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Behind me, her breath catches a small, angry sound. Father sits in his study, surrounded by scattered papers and empty coffee cups. The sight of him hits me like a physical blow. His face is gaunt, hair more gray than black now. The confident entrepreneur who once commanded boardrooms has been replaced by someone diminished. You came. He tries to stand, stumbles slightly. I wasn't sure. Sit down, Thomas. Elaine appears beside me, all concern and flutter. You know what Dr. Reynolds said about overexerting yourself. I'm fine. But he sits, avoiding my eyes. Val, I need to tell you. Thomas, darling, you're exhausted. Why don't I make us all some tea? Elaine's hand rests on his shoulder, perfectly manicured nails digging in slightly. A warning. I step closer to his desk, pretending to study the papers there. Most are financial documents, but one catches my eye. Transfer papers for the lake house. Mother's favorite place. The date on them is last week. You're selling the lake house? The question comes out sharper than intended. Father's face crumples. It's complicated, sweetheart. The business. There have been some setbacks. What your father means, Elaine cuts in smoothly, is that we're restructuring our assets. Nothing for you to worry about. Really? I pull out my phone, fingers steady as I type. Because according to the county records, the lake house was transferred to a shell company owned by Marcus Davidson. Isn't he your ex-husband, Elaine? The temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. Elaine's perfect mask slips for just a moment, revealing something ugly underneath. You've been investigating me? Her voice is soft, dangerous. Maggie called me. I meet her gaze directly, right before someone conveniently cut off her phone service. Your grandmother is becoming quite paranoid in her old age. Elaine moves between me and father, a subtle repositioning of power. Making accusations, spreading rumors. It's sad, really. Is that why you're isolating father from everyone who cares about him? Why you're selling off his assets piece by piece? That's enough. Father's fist hits the desk, But there's more desperation than authority in the gesture. Val, you don't understand. Elaine's been helping me. The business. Has she? I pull out another piece of paper, a copy of the letter Oliver sent me. Then why did $3 million move from your business account to an offshore holding company last month? A company registered to her maiden name. Elaine's composure cracks completely. You little bitch. You think you can walk in here after 2 years and… Get out. Father's voice is barely a whisper. Thomas, she's trying to. Get out. He stands, swaying slightly. Both of you. I need to think. I back toward the door, never taking my eyes off Elaine. Her face is a study in contained fury, but there's something else there too. Fear. This isn't over, she hisses as we reach the hallway. No, I agree quietly. It's just beginning. I leave them there, Father broken in his study, Elaine seething in the hallway. But as I drive away, my phone buzzes with a text from Oliver. Found something about your mother's accident. Meet me tonight. Alone. The game is changing. And this time I'm playing to win. The neon sign of Rusty's bar flickers against rain-slicked windows. Oliver sits in the darkest corner, exactly where he said he'd be. 8 years have aged him. His face harder, stubbled jaw set in grim lines. A manila envelope sits untouched beside his whiskey. You're late, he says as I slide into the booth. Elaine had someone following me. Had to take the long way. I order bourbon when the waitress passes. What did you find? Oliver's fingers drum against the envelope. Before I show you this, are you sure you want to know? Some doors don't close once they're opened. She's destroying my father. Whatever's in there, I need to know. He slides the envelope over. Inside are financial records, photographs, newspaper clippings. One photo makes my hands shake. Elaine with a man I don't recognize, taken 2 days before my mother's accident. Marcus Davidson, Oliver says quietly. Her ex-husband. The one she claimed was out of the picture years before she met your father. The same Marcus Davidson who now owns our lake house? Keep looking. The next document is a police report. My mother's accident. Brake lines cut, ruled mechanical failure. But there's a witness statement that was never followed up, describing a dark sedan following her car that night. The witness disappeared before they could make an official statement, Oliver continues. But I found him. Living under a new name in Arizona. Scared as hell when I mentioned Elaine. My bourbon arrives. I drain it in one burning swallow. There's more, Oliver says. Davidson owned a company that specialized in corporate takeovers. Hostile ones. They'd find vulnerable businesses, create financial crises, then swoop in to save them, for pennies on the dollar. Like what's happening to Father's company now. Exactly like that. And guess who was Davidson's financial advisor back then? The pieces click into place. Elaine. She's running the same play she helped Davidson perfect. Create a crisis, isolate the target, then strip everything valuable before anyone realizes what's happening. My phone buzzes, a text from Lucas. Elaine just left your father's house. She looked scared. What's going on? Before I can respond, Oliver tenses. Through the window, I see a familiar white Lexus pulling into the parking lot. She followed you here, Oliver mutters, already moving. Back door. Now. We slip through the kitchen just as Elaine enters the bar. But in the alley, a man steps out of the shadows. Marcus Davidson, older than his photo but unmistakable. Miss Carter, he says smoothly. We need to talk about your interference in family matters. Family matters? The words taste like poison. Like how you and Elaine arranged my mother's accident. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Accidents are tragic things. So unpredictable. Like that brake line you had serviced last week. Who knows if the mechanic did everything properly? My blood runs cold. Oliver steps forward, but Davidson raises a hand. Just a friendly warning. Elaine's worked very hard for her position. It would be a shame if more accidents started happening. To you, to your grandmother, to that handsome fiancé of yours. You're threatening the wrong person. My voice is steady, surprising me. I'm not my father. I don't back down. No. He produces a phone, plays a video. Father in his study, signing documents. His hands shake as Elaine guides them. Your father's not well, Valentina. Early onset dementia, the doctors say. Such a shame. But Elaine has power of attorney now. Everything's perfectly legal. The world tilts sideways. Oliver catches my arm as I sway. You have 24 hours to leave town, Davidson continues. Or the next accident won't be a warning. He melts back into the shadows, leaving me clutching the envelope of evidence that's now worthless. Legal documents trump truth every time. Val, Oliver starts, but I cut him off. Get me everything you have on Davidson. Every dirty deal. Every skeleton. If they want to play hardball. I straighten, fury burning away fear. Then let's show them how it's really done. Behind us, the bar's neon sign sputters and dies, plunging the alley into darkness. But I've never seen more clearly. Grandmother Maggie's house smells like cinnamon and gunpowder. She's at her kitchen table, cleaning her husband's old revolver with practiced hands. Her phone sits in pieces beside her, evidence of Elaine's interference. So they're threatening accidents now? She doesn't look up from her work. History repeating itself. You knew. The accusation slips out before I can stop it. About Mother's accident. About Elaine and Davidson. Suspicions aren't proof. She slides the cylinder back into place with a click. And your father wouldn't listen. Love makes fools of the wisest men. My phone buzzes, Lucas again. I silence it without reading the message. He doesn't understand why I won't let him help, why I've pushed him away since Davidson's threat. They have power of attorney, I say. Father's signature on everything. It's over. Maggie's hand slams down hard enough to rattle her teacup. Nothing's over until we're dead. And I'm not dead yet. She pulls out a worn leather diary from a drawer. Mother's handwriting fills the pages, growing more frantic toward the end. The last entry is dated 3 days before her death, meeting with medical doctor again. Transfer papers ready. Must tell Thomas before. The entry ends mid-sentence. Found this in her desk after the funeral, Maggie says. Elaine got to everything else first, but she missed this. A key falls from between the pages, old, brass, with a bank's logo. Safety deposit box, Maggie explains. Your mother was always careful. Always had backup plans. My hands shake as I pick up the key. Why didn't you tell me before? Because you weren't ready to burn everything down. She meets my eyes. Are you ready now? Before I can answer, headlights sweep across the windows. A car pulling into the driveway, Father's Mercedes. Valentina. His voice is stronger than at the house, more like his old self. I know you're here. We need to talk. I move to the window. He's alone, but something's off about his posture, his movements. The back door, Maggie whispers urgently. Go. Now. But I'm tired of running. I open the front door. Father stands there, swaying slightly. His eyes are glassy, unfocused. You have to stop, sweetheart. Elaine. She's trying to help. The business. When did you last take your medication, Father? He blinks, confused. Elaine handles. She knows what's best. Thomas Carter. Maggie's voice cuts through the night. What pills has that woman been giving you? Another car approaches, the white Lexus. My heart races as Father grabs my arm, his grip desperate. Please, he whispers. I remember things sometimes. When the fog clears. Your mother. She tried to warn me. But Elaine's medication helps. Makes everything quiet again. The pieces click together with sickening clarity. Not dementia, drugs. Elaine's been drugging him, keeping him compliant while she and Davidson dismantle his life. Get inside, I tell him, but he pulls away. Can't. Promised Elaine. Supposed to bring you home. The Lexus stops. Elaine steps out, Davidson behind her. Thomas, darling, she calls. Time for your evening medication. Father moves toward her, voice like a puppet on strings. I start after him, but Maggie's hand catches my shoulder. The diary, she hisses. The safety deposit box. That's your mother's real legacy. Choose your battlefield carefully. I watch Father get into Elaine's car. Watch Davidson's satisfied smirk as they drive away. The key burns in my pocket like a live coal. Tomorrow, I say quietly. The bank opens at 9. Maggie nods, understanding everything I'm not saying. The revolver disappears into her drawer, but we both know it won't stay there long. Sometimes saving someone means losing them first. Sometimes revenge means watching the people you love walk away, knowing it's the only way to set them free. The night stretches ahead, full of possibilities and promises. By morning, everything will change. The safety deposit box contains exactly 3 items: a USB drive, a handwritten letter, and an old photograph of Elaine with Davidson and another man I don't recognize. They're standing in front of a building that burned down 8 years ago, Father's first company headquarters. My hands shake as I plug the USB drive into my laptop. Files appear, hundreds of them. Financial records, emails, surveillance photos. My mother had been building a case, documenting everything. Your mother was thorough, Oliver says beside me. We're in his office, surrounded by case files and coffee cups. But this last piece. He taps the photograph. This changes everything. The third man in the photo is Dr. Reynolds, the same doctor now prescribing Father's medication. My phone rings, Lucas again. I silence it, ignoring the twist of guilt in my gut. Pushing him away hurts, but it's better than making him a target. Reynolds was their inside man, Oliver continues. He helped them take down other companies before yours. Create health crises. Manipulate records. The office door bursts open. Elaine stands there, perfectly composed except for the wild look in her eyes. Davidson looms behind her like a shadow. I wondered how long it would take you to find that box, she says quietly. Your mother was always too clever for her own good. Oliver reaches for his desk drawer, but Davidson's faster. The gun appears almost casually in his hand. Let's all stay civil, Davidson says. We're here to negotiate. Negotiate. The word tastes like acid. You killed my mother. Accidents happen. Elaine steps forward, her heels clicking on the hardwood. Just like they could happen to your grandmother. Or that sweet fiancé of yours. Lucas, isn't it? He works on the 10th floor of the Morton building. Such dangerous elevators in that place. My nails dig into my palms. What do you want? The USB drive. The files. Everything your mother collected. Her mask slips, showing something desperate underneath. Walk away, Valentina. Take Lucas and leave town. Your father's condition is delicate. He needs consistency, routine. My routine. You mean your drugs. I mean stability. Her voice hardens. Something you've been disrupting lately. Thomas was happy before you came back. Content. He was dying, Oliver cuts in. The toxicology reports. Davidson's gun shifts slightly. Oliver falls silent. Last chance, Elaine says. Give me the drive or start planning funerals. The USB drive feels heavy in my hand. Everything Mother died for, all the evidence we need. But Lucas's face flashes through my mind. Grandmother Maggie's defiant stance. How many more people will die for this truth? My phone buzzes again, not Lucas this time, but a text from an unknown number. Don't give in. Backup coming. Maggie. Of course she'd have a plan. I hold out the drive. Take it. Take everything. Just leave my family alone. Elaine's smile is triumphant as she reaches for it, but her fingers barely brush the plastic before sirens explode outside. Red and blue lights flood the office. FBI, voices shout from below. The building is surrounded. Davidson's gun swings toward me, but Oliver moves faster. They crash together as Elaine lunges for the drive. I stumble back, clutching Mother's evidence to my chest. You stupid girl, Elaine hisses, her composure shattered. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Your father will never survive without me. Without the medication. You mean the poison? Grandmother Maggie's voice cuts through the chaos. She stands in the doorway, FBI agents flanking her. The same poison you used on my daughter-in-law when she got too close? Elaine's face goes white. For the first time, I see real fear in her eyes. The FBI swarms in. Davidson and Elaine are separated, cuffed, led away. But Elaine's words echo in my head. Father will never survive without her routine, her control, her drugs. Sometimes winning feels exactly like losing. Oliver touches my shoulder. Your father's being taken to the hospital. Detox won't be easy, but he'll live, I finish. He'll finally live. Outside, storm clouds gather. The real battle, helping father recover, rebuilding what Elaine destroyed, is just beginning. But for now, watching her perfect world crumble feels like the first breath after drowning. The hospital corridor stretches endlessly, antiseptic white and unforgiving. Father's been in detox for 3 days. The doctors say the withdrawal could kill him, his system too dependent on whatever cocktail of drugs Elaine fed him for years. Coffee. Lucas appears beside me, offering a paper cup. He hasn't left my side since everything exploded, despite how I pushed him away. I don't deserve him. He's seizing again, I say instead of taking the coffee. They won't let me in. Through the window, I watch the medical team work. Father's body arches off the bed, fighting invisible demons. Fighting Elaine's poison, even now. My phone rings Oliver. Elaine's lawyer is pushing for bail. Davidson too. They're claiming your mother's evidence was obtained illegally. The coffee cup slips from Lucas's hand, spreading like blood across the sterile floor. A nurse rushes past with more medication for father. That's not possible, I whisper. The FBI. The FBI's warrant was based on that evidence. If it's thrown out. Oliver's voice cracks. There's more. Dr. Reynolds was found dead in his cell an hour ago. Apparent suicide. The walls seem to close in. Our star witness gone. The evidence tainted. And father, dying by inches while I watch helplessly. Valentina. Grandmother Maggie appears from the elevator, her face grave. The board of directors is meeting. They're voting to sell the company. Of course. With father incapacitated and the scandal breaking, the vultures are circling. Everything he built, everything mother died protecting. They can't. Lucas starts, but Maggie cuts him off. They can and they are. Marcus Davidson's holding company is the buyer. Her voice hardens. Even from jail, they're still destroying this family. A commotion erupts in father's room. The heart monitor's alarm pierces the air. Doctors rush in as a nurse pushes me back. He's crashing, someone shouts. Get the crash cart. I press against the window, watching them fight for his life. His face is yellow, wasted, nothing like the strong man who once carried me on his shoulders. This is what you wanted, isn't it? Elaine's voice, smooth as poison. She stands at the end of the corridor, flanked by 2 guards. Her lawyer must have won the bail hearing. To destroy everything? You did this, I snarl, starting forward, but Lucas catches my arm. Did I? Her smile is razor sharp. I kept him stable, comfortable, but you had to dig up the past. Had to have your revenge. Now look at him. The monitors in father's room scream louder. Someone calls for more epinephrine. Tell them to reinstate his medication, Elaine continues. My special blend. It's the only thing that will save him now. Or you can watch him die, knowing it's your fault. You're lying, but my voice shakes. What if she's right? Am I? Check his latest blood work. His system's shutting down without the compounds I developed. Compounds that, technically, don't exist. She steps closer, voice dropping. I can save him. But it'll cost you everything. The evidence. The company. Your precious revenge. The doctor emerges from father's room, face grim. Miss Carter? We need to discuss your father's options. He's not responding to standard treatments. Elaine's smile widens. She knows she's won. Valentina don't. Maggie warns. Your mother is dead, I finish. And father will be too if. The words stick in my throat. Lucas's hand finds mine, squeezing tight. But even his strength can't help me now. The choice is impossible. Father's life or justice for mother's death. Tick-tock, Elaine whispers. What's it going to be? Through the window, father's monitors continue their desperate chorus. His life slipping away with each beep. And me, standing here with mother's evidence burning a hole in my pocket, facing the ultimate price of revenge. Sometimes there are no right choices. Only the ones we can live with. Or die with. The hospital lab is deserted at midnight. I watch Elaine measure precise amounts of clear liquid into father's 4-bag, her movements practiced, efficient. The security camera's red light blinks silently above us, Oliver's team recording everything. You know what's fascinating about pharmaceutical compounds? Elaine doesn't look up from her work. How the same substance can heal or kill, depending on the dosage. My phone buzzes in my pocket, the signal. The FBI has everything they need. Like the cocktail you used on Mother? My voice stays steady, even as my hands shake. Or was that just straight poison? The syringe pauses. Your mother was going to destroy everything. Just like you're trying to do now. She turns, something wild in her eyes. I gave Thomas everything. Stability. Success. A future. You gave him chains. Poison wrapped in pretty lies. I gave him peace. The syringe trembles in her grip. Do you know what it's like watching someone you love destroy themselves with guilt and regret? The medication helped him forget. Helped him move forward. By erasing Mother? By turning him into your puppet. By saving him from the truth. She steps closer, voice dropping. The truth about what really happened the night your mother died. About who was really driving the car. The world tilts sideways. What? Thomas was behind the wheel that night. Too drunk to drive, but convinced he had to get to some emergency board meeting. Your mother tried to stop him. They fought. She grabbed the wheel. Elaine's smile is razor sharp. I helped him forget that part. Helped him build a new life. And you want to destroy that? My throat closes. You're lying. Am I? Check your mother's diary again. The entries she never finished. Ask yourself why she was really meeting with Davidson that night. The lab door opens. Lucas stands there, face grim. Val, your father's awake. He's asking for you. Don't. Elaine's hand shoots out, grabs my arm. The syringe glints. One dose of this, and he forgets everything. Goes back to being happy. Isn't that better than the truth? I look at the 4 bag, at the clear liquid that's kept father prisoner for years. At Elaine's desperate eyes and trembling hands. The truth is, I say quietly, you never loved him. You loved controlling him. Everything I did was for yourself. I pull free of her grip. The FBI has your formula now. They're analyzing every compound, every transaction, every death connected to you and Davidson. It's over. Her composure shatters. The syringe comes up, aimed at my throat. I won't lose everything. Not again. Not to another self-righteous bitch who thinks she knows best. Drop it, Elaine. Oliver's voice cuts through the tension. He stands in the doorway, gun trained on her. FBI agents flood the lab. But Elaine's laugh is wild, unhinged. You still don't understand. Your father signed everything over to me years ago. The company, the assets, everything. Even if you lock me away, you'll never get it back. Check again. Grandmother Maggie appears, holding up her phone. Thomas just signed new papers. Properly witnessed. Properly notarized. While you were here, playing with your poisons. The syringe clatters to the floor. Elaine's perfect mask crumples completely. He wouldn't, she whispers. He needs me. The medication. He chose truth, I say softly. Even with all its pain. He chose to remember. The FBI moves in. Elaine doesn't resist as they cuff her, read her rights. But her eyes find mine one last time. The truth will destroy him, she hisses. And that destruction will be on your hands. Maybe she's right. Maybe truth is its own kind of poison. But as I watch them lead her away, I think of Mother's unfinished diary entry, of Father fighting through withdrawal to sign those papers, of all the years lost to Elaine's careful lies. Sometimes healing only comes after the poison is purged. Sometimes love means choosing truth, no matter how much it hurts. I turn toward Father's room, toward whatever truth awaits. Lucas's hand finds mine, warm and steady. It's time to finish what Mother started. The lake house windows reflect the setting sun, turning them to sheets of fire. Father stands at the water's edge, stronger now after weeks of rehabilitation. The tremors in his hands have almost stopped. Your mother loved this view, he says as I join him. His voice is clearer these days, free of Elaine's chemical fog. The last time we were here together. He trails off. We both know what happened that night. The argument, the drinking, the desperate grab for the steering wheel. Some truths don't need words. I found this in Mother's study. I hand him the unfinished diary entry. She wasn't meeting Davidson to expose you. She was meeting him to protect you. She discovered Elaine's connection to the other corporate takedowns. His hands shake as he reads. All these years I thought. Elaine made me believe. She made you forget. But Mother never stopped fighting for you. Inside the house, Lucas and Grandmother Maggie are unpacking boxes. We're reclaiming this place, piece by piece. The lake house was never meant to be Davidson's trophy. My phone buzzes. Oliver's update on Elaine's trial. Her carefully constructed empire is crumbling. Davidson's turning state's evidence against her, desperate to save himself. But I don't read the message to Father. Some victories don't need announcing. I don't deserve forgiveness, Father says quietly. Maybe not. I watch a boat cut across the lake, leaving ripples in its wake. But Mother understood something I'm just learning. Revenge isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about breaking free. He turns, really looks at me for the first time since the hospital. When did you get so wise? When I stopped letting anger write my story. Lucas appears on the deck, carrying Mother's old wind chimes, the ones Elaine banished to the attic years ago. Their gentle music fills the air as he hangs them. The board meeting's tomorrow, Father says. They want me to resume control of the company. Are you ready? No. He smiles slightly. But I'm done hiding from hard things. Grandmother Maggie joins us, carrying a familiar leather-bound book. Mother's recipe journal, the one where she coded her investigation notes between instructions for pot roast and apple pie. Her final act of protection, hidden in plain sight. Found something interesting, Maggie says, opening to a marked page. Your mother's last entry. It wasn't unfinished after all. The message appears under UV light, written in Mother's distinctive hand. My dearest Val, if you're reading this, you've already chosen truth over comfort. That's all any mother could hope for her child. Some battles aren't about winning. They're about choosing who we become in the fighting. Love, Mom. The words blur as Father's arm circles my shoulders. Behind us, Lucas and Maggie start dinner preparations, their voices mixing with the wind chimes song. Who do you think she'd be proud of now? Father asks softly. I watch the sun sink behind the trees, painting the lake in shades of gold and shadow. Somewhere across town, Elaine sits in a cell, surrounded by the ruins of her careful plans. But her ghost no longer haunts us. Both of us, I answer. For finally choosing truth. The wind shifts, carrying the scent of approaching rain. Storm clouds gather on the horizon, not threatening, but promising renewal. Like Mother knew they would. I leave Father at the water's edge, letting him have this moment with his memories. In the kitchen, Lucas catches my hand, pulls me into a dance to music only we can hear. Grandmother Maggie pretends not to watch, smiling as she chops vegetables. The wind chimes sing their broken melody, mixing past with present. Some songs never end. They just change key, become something new, something stronger. Like us, like truth, like love.